Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Brian Wilson, and you're listening to The Drive on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'll be here all the way till 7 o'clock, bringing you news and information that you can use as we try to bring you up to date on things that have happened around the nation, across, here in Nashville and around the world. All kinds of stuff happening. But I just have to stop for a moment before we go any further and just express my condolences to my good friend Matt Murphy. I mean, when you lose a dog, and he lost it, if you didn't hear, John Henry has passed, a good old dog. And when you lose a dog, it really is, you're losing a member of your family, someone that's been there for you. And if you are a dog lover, as I am, then you know how difficult it is when these dogs who've been such an integral part of your lives, so important, in your day-to-day existence, pass on. And it's tough. It's tough. And, condolences, because I know what you're going through, been through it before. And, I have these two puppies now that I so dearly love. And, you just get emotional about them. And so my thoughts and prayers are with you and E as you go through that. It is like a gigantic hole in your life. All right. We'll try to move on now. We need to talk about what happened last night with the governor's speech on his State of the State address. It was. I think there was a lot of news in it. Sadly, if you look at some of the coverage, it was about the protests because there were hecklers in the gallery, and when the governor got to the part about what he wanted to do with school choice and vouchers and all of that. Something, as you know, we've talked about here on this program, something I'm very much in support of. There were those in the gallery who began to protest. And no effort was made to remove them. And I'll talk about that in a moment. First, I found this clip, and again, my thanks to the folks at Channel 5 and the reporter, Chris Davis, who was there, and he covered this specific part of the story. With all fairness, they did all talk about the other things that are in the governor's speech, but they did a separate breakout on this, and I think it gives you a sense of just how rude these people were.
When Governor Bill Lee got to the topic of school choice.
It's time that we let parents decide, and not the government, where their child goes to school and what they learn.
Things went a little off script.
Public schools are invaluable. We can give parents choice and support public schools at the same time.
Yeah.
Troopers stood by watching but never removed any hecklers, despite efforts from the governor.
Civility is a strength. It is not a weakness.
And someone else in the crowd.
Children are dying.
Let the governor speak uninterrupted, please.
The jeers from the gallery continue.
And we're working on a plan to help public schools retain the best and brightest teachers in their individual districts.
Well, it was about really only, they were in the gallery. No members on the floor were involved in any of those protests. It was people who were in the gallery as visitors. And I'm told reliably that maybe there were 5 or 6, but one particularly vocal woman who continued to harass the governor throughout the rest of his speech, really just beyond the pale. And so I wanted to know what was the thinking about leaving them in the gallery. There were state troopers standing right there, but no movement was made to remove them from the gallery. And I talked to the Speaker of the House, Cameron Sexton, on the phone this morning. He'll be joining us hopefully tomorrow. And I said, look, what was going on there? And I want you to know that part of it was a deference to the governor and his staff. They were consulted about this in advance, what to do. And there was a general sense that if the governor could continue, they would. If it got to be, an untenable situation like a chant or so much noise and racket that perhaps it would have been difficult for anybody to go forward, then the idea was they probably would have taken action. But I think there's some value in doing that. Number one, first of all, it's extremely rude, and they come across as rude. And, we here in Tennessee, we are not rude people. So this doesn't play well. It doesn't help their cause at all. And in fact, if you had, rounded them up and dragged them out, they would have become, to some people, martyrs. And so there was no sense in all of that. Don't encourage them. Just, let them, exist and show the world, what kind of people are on the other side of this issue. And look, I understand that there are people who have passionate feelings about this, but we really have lost civility in the world of politics, and the people who were doing this did not help their cause at all. I think it hurt their cause, but that's the way it's going to be. It's guerrilla politics, even here in rather civil Middle Tennessee, where we tend to be nice to each other even if we disagree. So that was the thinking that there were some, by the way, I talked to other members who were in attendance last night who were of the opinion they should have been thrown out on their ear, and were furious about the level of protest. But, when you have a joint session of the House and Senate, and the governor is giving his State of the State address, although the place is run by the leaders of the House and Senate, there is a lot of deference given to what the governor wants, and my sense of it is that the governor did not want to have a confrontation of that nature, as is his wont. So there you have it. Now, having gotten that out of the way, let's talk about some of the things that he actually said, because there was news in it from the Associated Press. Governor Lee is forging ahead on some big-ticket items in his state budget proposal, among them a dramatic expansion of taxpayer-funded vouchers to help kids attend private school, a big tax break for business, and a growth of state parks and natural areas. The Republican spending plan this for 24-25 clocks in at $52.6 billion, down from an estimated $62.5 billion, as state tax revenues have flattened and funding under some federal initiatives has dried up. The administration says it has some money at its disposal after deciding not to spend about $2.6 billion from year-after-year tax revenues on one-time projects this year, freeing those sources of cash for next year. And, of course, it is true, as the AP points out, Republicans hold supermajorities here, take up the budget, and make any changes in the coming month. So here are some of the likely things that will be noted. $1.6 billion for an ongoing $410 million franchise tax break, and $1.2 billion in one-time money backfilled to the current year's budget to give business tax refunds. School vouchers, $144 million would serve 20,000 students in the first year, half of them restricted by family income. So 10,000 would have a means test. The other half would be unrestricted, and the goal is next year is to make it available to all students. But there's also an increase in public school funding. It would add to the K through 12 $261.3 million, including money for incremental raises for teacher pay. As the governor said, you can have choice and you can have supportive public schools. They are not mutually exclusive. You can have both. We're going to get some new parks in the state of Tennessee. $207.3 million would include new state parks, a new grant program to support a lake improvement project, and I think that's a good idea. Rural health, $881.1 million to address healthcare apprenticeships, training, career pathways, specialty care, technical assistance. There will be grants for applicants seeking to improve rural care. And they're going to continue to add $20 million to the rainy day fund to bring it up to a little over $2 billion. Really quite amazing that the state of Tennessee has been able to manage that so well that we have a $2 billion rainy day fund, or will soon have one. State employees are going to get a $49 million raise. That's about 3% increase of the fund that pays the state employees. $17.4 million for 60 new state troopers. School for the Ford plant, Blue Oval, $3.2 million, a year-over-year money for a Tennessee College of Applied Technology that would be there to teach young people to have the skills to enter the Ford electric vehicle and battery campus being planned for just outside of Memphis. $12 million for school mental health workers. $15 million for behavioral health hospitals to increase access to complex mental health inpatient care, and $10 million for children's hospitals to expand resources for young patients with behavioral health concerns. All of that in the governor's big speech last night. Look, I'm among those who believe that the school choice idea, which is going to be clearly the most controversial issue, there are very powerful forces that will be arrayed against that. But I look at it and I keep saying, there are schools in Tennessee that are getting it done, and there are schools in Tennessee that simply are not getting it done. And I just don't think it's fair to the students and young people of this state to be limited because a school system is failing to teach the children. And so if you are happy with your school, and there's not a thing that this happens that's going to hurt your public school funding, as best I can tell. They're actually increasing the amount of money for public schools and for teachers. So I don't see how it hurts you. If you're happy with your school, keep going to your school. Everything's just great. But if you're not, shouldn't you have the opportunity to try to do something when the system is failing you? The local school district is not getting it done. The local school is not getting it done, Davidson County and others. Then I think you should have the opportunity and the right to take your kid somewhere else and give your kid an education. I mean, the role of education is to teach our kids to either be ready to go into college or to go into the work world and be prepared and to earn a good living and to become productive citizens, to teach them to read and to write and to reason and to learn and give them knowledge. And if those things aren't happening in a school district, then my belief is that we need to have a way out for those kids. Now, in the first year of this, it'll be 20,000. As I said, 10,000 will be means tested. You have to be going to the more financially needy in the state. But the second 10,000 would become first come, first serve, with the goal of making it available to any of the state's students who might want to take advantage of it by 2025. I think it should have the support, but it's going to be a battle because, I mean, even among Republicans, they're getting an earful from school districts and superintendents and school board members and parents who have all kinds of questions about this. I still think it's the right way to go. And again, nothing that I see here in the governor's plan hurts public schools if you want to keep your kid going to a public school. But boy, give the rest of the kids who are not having, as much luck in their school system as you are, the opportunity to do something better for themselves. Give their parents options. I'm in favor of it. 100,000%. 20 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Grace Point Healthcare delivers medicine affordably with a menu-style transparent pricing scheme so you'll know how much it will cost before the care is delivered. Smart care plans, and this is a big deal, really. Think about this, $69 a month. Do the math. You get unlimited office visits and free basic labs for the entire year. And because they treat the entire family, even newborns, you can get a family plan as well. If you marry that, you put it in conjunction with a high-deductible insurance plan, it could save you and your family a lot of money. At Grace Point, they take their time with each patient. They see you the same or next day. There are no long wait times or crowded wait rooms, and they treat naturally whenever possible. It is, of course, a military vet-owned practice. Just some of the reasons why it's been voted the best primary care provider year after year after year. In Grace Point, they are at Main Street in Franklin, 599-6868, 599-6868 to schedule a visit.
Immigration bill looking unlikely to go far. A fatal crash in Tennessee, and one tech giant taking steps to flag content generated by artificial intelligence. We'll tell you about it. 3:30 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
There's Mac Morey with all the stories. Glad that he's back in the chair this week. We missed him when he was out last week, and they're over there. You know, it's our good friend Chris Weber, and he's in the control center where he's there on the battle bridge of the, the Starship WTN, making sure that all of the proper buttons are pushed and that the fringe area localizers have been, correctly set.
Well, that's of vast importance.
Yeah, it is. You know, when I first got into to TV, I found out that the engineers love to play a trick on new people coming into the building, and
really,
my first, and there was a trick they would play with reporters out in the field, new reporters, young rookie reporters, where they get on the two-way and they'd say, "Hey, listen, you're the new guy, so you have the duty. I'm sorry, we need you to go by and check the readings on the fringe area localizers." and they say, "What?" Yeah, it's we got to do it every so often, and we always give it to the rookie gets the duty, and they would send him off to some like it was like a snipe hunt. You're out looking for things that don't exist,
and they were too afraid to ask. Well, what exactly is that? Because they don't want to be thought of stupid.
You don't see the meter? It's right there at the corner of so and so and so and so. It's right there. You don't see it? No, I don't see it. Okay. It's just plain as day. It's painted green. And you just
I'm gonna have to come out there and show you in person.
If I have to come out there, I mean, this is come on, this is simple work. Just find the meter and give me the reading. And of course, the meter did not exist.
I love that.
I love that too. And then finally, I think the little light goes off. They're messing with me.
These jerks.
Fringe area localizers. I've always remembered that.
It sounds important, though.
It does. It does. Well, it's good to have you guys in their proper places today. A point of personal privilege, if you don't mind. I did announce this later in the show yesterday, but I have extended my contractual agreement with Super Talk 99.7 WTN, and we'll be here for a while longer.
Woo, nice.
That's right. Yep. I mean, they keep. I mean, I guess they thought I would get the hint, but I just never get the hint and go away. Yeah, they changed the locks on me a couple of times, but then I said, well, that's all right. I'll just broadcast from home. That didn't work out well for them.
Yeah,
and it backfired on them. So I am very happy to be continuing. But what it really means is that I'm very pleased to be with this company. And we've got a great election year to cover. And one of the things that I know this means is the only reason we have the ability to go forward is because our listeners have been so wonderful to support what we do here. We are nothing without listeners to this program, and so that you have found favor with what we do each day is greatly appreciated. And of course, we can't continue without our advertisers and our supporters. I have people who've been with me actually almost since the very first day. They're still with us. Good and loyal clients who come here because, I think we do them so good, but also because they believe in our mission here at Super Talk 99.7. I know people get irritated sometimes with commercials. I mean, when I'm watching like TV or something, I get irritated with the commercials sometimes, so many commercials. But you know what? The content that we provide you in the news and the information and the traffic reports and the news reports and the whole 9 yards doesn't cost you a penny. And that's because we have good clients who support what we do and believe in the mission of WTN. So many of them are also listeners, and not just, they're not just advertisers. They are actual listeners, and they believe in the mission of this radio station. So thank you to them as well. And I just look forward to sort of buckling down through the entire election season. Oh my gosh, I think it's going to be rocking and rolling and all kinds of stuff going on. So we'll try to stay ahead of it and try to look around the corners and give you our best take on it each and every day, because it's going to be, I think, a story like we have never seen before. And I am tickled to be sitting here in my chair in bucolic Watertown, and the vantage point that I have to bring information about that to you. So buckle up, as we say here on the drive. We would, Chris, on my special feed that I have where I can see you and Mac Morey.
Yeah.
your picture is frozen and you have the weirdest look on your face.
Oh, look at that. Yeah.
Oh, I see it.
That's funny. Let's see.
That's I don't know why. Mac has moved there. Well, now Mac, you're gone. And then, well, anyway, that's just inside baseball, and nobody cares about that. They say, why are you telling us things we can't see? You can see the show on Super Talk TV, of course, and we love our people who go over there and take a look at us. Today, I am wearing my favorite baseball hat, so that's something to look forward to. That's the highlight of what you're going to see on
really
TV.
Draw them in.
Yeah, that and my metallic, anatomically correct goat. It is 30 minutes past the hour, 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
.30, I'm Mac Maury with your top story. Sunny, 59 degrees in Music City. Weather forecast, traffic report on the way in 5 minutes. In the nation's capital, Democrats say they are stunned that Republicans are now rejecting the Senate immigration deal that the GOP helped negotiate. But the Democratic Senate majority says they'll still take a vote this week. Andy Field has the latest from Washington.
Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer saying there's only one reason many Republicans are rejecting the border deal they once demanded.
They were quaking at the knees at the fear of Donald Trump.
The senator saying Republicans even rejected the advice of their closest allies.
The president of the Border Patrol Council, who almost inevitably signs with Donald Trump, said pass the bill.
The Senate will still vote this week to show on the record which Republicans reject the deal.
A fatal crash in Tennessee. Channel 4 reports that there was a crash in Clarksville last night that required emergency officials to extricate a person from the crashed car. That person, 49-year-old Leanna Allen, has now been pronounced dead this afternoon. It happened on Fort Campbell Boulevard around 10 o'clock last night. The vehicle left the lane and hit a pole. Officials are looking for more information in that collision. And one tech giant taking steps to flag content generated by artificial intelligence. Here's Brian Clark with details.
Advances in AI technology have added new concerns to the presidential election year. Meta, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, says it will alert users to pictures generated by artificial intelligence.
It's not going to be a perfect solution.
Meta President of Global Affairs Nick Clegg tells GMA this will not extend to video or audio posts.
But I hope that this is a big step forward in trying to make sure that people know what they're looking at and they know where what they're looking at comes from.
And that is the latest news, traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
I want you to think back a few days ago when we had all the rain and we had all that very, very cold weather and the freezing. And maybe you found that you had a waterproofing or a foundation issue at your house. Well, it's worrisome, I know, but it could be something big that needs to be fixed and you should get on it. Or it might be a small problem that if you don't get on it now will become a bigger problem. And when I'm bigger, I mean more expensive problem. Or it may turn out to be nothing much at all and you just need some reassurance. Any way you go at it, the bottom line is you need guidance. And the folks you should turn to is United Structural Systems. They've been around for, a lot of years, 25,000 satisfied residential customers. And here's what they do. They come out your house. They give you their best advice. They look at your system and they look at your situation and they say, look, this is what it'll take to make it right. and then you get a decision to make. If you decide to go forward, you don't pay a penny until the job is done, and everybody is satisfied. That's what they want. USS, they guarantee their best, serving Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, Western Kentucky, Northern Alabama. Online at USSTN.com. Here's the number, 615-488-7855. It's 38 minutes now past the hour, 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair on the 6th day of February. It's Tuesday, another great day. Let's see, right here in Bucolic, Watertown, we were just a hair under 60 degrees. I got out today and cleared some brush. I was a manly man with my chainsaw.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm just, going around the Wilson Manor clearing a bunch of I always find it's easier to do it this time of year.
Yes, that's true.
If you do it this time of year when all the greenery you can just cut through that stuff. It's a lot easier than, I'm telling you, I got into a thicket of vines. They were trying to take over a portion of my pool, which, coming over to the top of the pool fence, and we can't have that. That's hard work. I
get some leather gloves.
I have some leather gloves, and after I was viciously attacked by a holly bush, I guess it was late last year, and poked a holly bush in my eye. I always have proper eye protection, and so I got my goggles and my gloves, and I'm out there chainsawing away, getting that stuff cut back.
Nice.
Yeah. Now I just need somebody to come pick it up and take it away for me. That's because that's heavy work, man. I don't want to do that. I like the cutting. I'm not so much on the picking up and getting rid of. Yeah. Listen, let's do a 2024 update today. That's right. We're going to bring you all of the information every day, where we are, the things that relate to the election. And I have a bit of good news, and Mac Maury, this is good news for you. I know, and anybody's going to be watching the Super Bowl game this weekend. There is a chance, unless you get a hold of some bad bean dip, that you can get through the entire Super Bowl experience without barfing. Well, I mean, normally you have a presidential interview that's, done in conjunction with the Super Bowl. And, given that we have who's in our current president of the United States, that might, sour a few people's stomach. So, but no, he's not going to do it. That's the news. Not going to do it. Not going to be there.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. It's shocking, really.
It is.
President Joe Biden is not sitting down for an interview at the Super Bowl for the second year in a row as he continues his trend of limited interviews and media appearances. According to the Washington Examiner, and they're right about this. White House confirmed to Variety over the weekend that the president would not take part in an interview with CBS, which airs the Super Bowl domestically this year, after skipping out on an interview with Fox before the broadcast of the 2023 Super Bowl. We hope viewers enjoy watching and they stay tuned for the game, said White House spokesman Ben LaBolt. Biden did participate in Super Bowl interviews with CBS and NBC ahead of the big game in 21 and 22. The interviews become a recent tradition. When then President Donald Trump's decision not to participate in an interview with NBC being the most recent snub prior to Biden's back-to-back snubs. But see, there's a reason why. I mean, this is going to be like, well, what do you like? What's your favorite dip when you're having food? Do you have a favorite football food, Mr. President? Who you rooting for? Who you rooting for? Of course, he wouldn't know.
Yeah, softball city, though. It's going to be easy.
Yeah, if there's ever going to be an easy interview, it's going to be, the Super Bowl interview. Nobody expects you to get into deep policy discussions in a Super Bowl interview.
We are talking about Joe Biden, though.
Well, I know, but I think it's that they understand that the man can't put together a sentence anymore. They don't want to catch him. They don't want to have a huge, what is it? I forget how many millions of people, usually 50, 60 million people watching, and have him then, do a face plant in the middle of the thing. Figuratively, I'm speaking, of course. They don't want him to do that, and so they're going to be that way. They're going to protect him as much as they possibly can from any chance to make a jerk out of himself. And there are some, there's perfect examples of stuff that happened. Here's one. And I was going to do this later, but I'll move it up because it sort of fits in our discussion. Recently, the president of the United States was talking about a conversation he had with the president of France. However, he referred to the president of France, who's been dead, I think, since 96, Francois Mitterrand, instead of Macron.
I was in the south of England, and I sat down and I said, America's back. And Mitterrand from France looked at me.
First he thought Mitterrand was from Germany. Then he corrected himself.
And said, why, how long are you back for?
Well, first of all, he could barely get through that sentence. But second of all, he got the name of the French president wrong and referred to a French president who no longer is alive instead of, Macron. And then he there for a moment thought that, Mitterrand was from Germany. At least he caught himself in real time on that one. And then there was this where he, people are scratching their head. What in the hell did he mean by this?
By the way, I love how Trump is now saying Biden's for abortion on demand. Not true. That's not what Roe v. Wade said. They said there are 3 trimesters and how it worked.
Well, 3 trimesters would be up until birth. So, what does that mean? People are just, apparently in the room, people just looked at each other and went, I don't know. I haven't got a clue as to what he means. In the meantime, you have, Trump, asking him to debate. That's right. He said, we need to debate. We need to get out there. Trump's anxious to get him on a stage and sort of, reveal to the American people how bad the president has slipped.
He can't do anything. He's ruining our country, and I don't think he's going to run. I don't know if it's donors or otherwise. It might be his family. It might be something. I don't think he's going to run. But I'd like to call for immediately debates. I'd like to debate them now because we should debate. We should debate for the good of the country.
Well, first of all, the thing that the President Trump said there is something that I agree with, and that is he doesn't think he's going to run. That ultimately he's not going to be the guy. And I keep coming to that conclusion. I look at him, I go, they've got to be kidding me. Certainly there is a plan because they can't let this guy continue on. Because if they do, it's not that, I personally leave him in there. But I just don't think they're that dumb. And neither does Trump. He doesn't think they're that dumb either, that they will, number one, not ultimately allow him to become the nominee. And by they, I mean the power brokers of the Democrat Party. But he says, well, anyway, we need to debate for the good of the country. Biden coming out of a smoothie shop. This man loves his ice cream and his smoothies. You gotta, if you go out and you read the teleprompter without messing up too bad, we'll let you go have a smoothie and an ice cream, Mr. President.
President Donald Trump is ready to debate you right now. Do you accept?
He just said that on radio.
Pardon me?
What they debate you immediately, he said.
Immediately?
Yes.
Will you debate him?
If I were him, I'd want him to debate me too. You got nothing else to do.
Okay.
What?
I don't know. I'd want him to debate me too, because he's got nothing else to do. Well, I'll tell you who doesn't have much to do. It's Joseph R. Biden Jr. He doesn't have much to do. He goes out and these carefully scripted things, muffs them up every time. As I've just played a couple examples, he can't get through anything without messing it up. I remember, in the last years of Ronald Reagan's administration, there were Democrats who said, Reagan's losing his edge. Reagan's losing his edge. Is Reagan really in charge? He seemed, well, he didn't do that whole thing, well, there you go again, Sam. He would do that kind of thing and really just, but I never heard anything out of Reagan then. And I was covering Reagan at the time, covering, Washington at the time, in the last little bit of his second term. And I never heard anything that even comes close to what is going on with Joe Biden. I mean, it's scary that we are in such, a delicate situation around the world. We have, people attacking our troops in the Middle East, and we've got a conflict going on between the Israelis and Hamas. We've got Putin coming through and attacking Ukraine and all of this stuff and just tenseness all over the world, I think we got a disaster on the border, et cetera, and he's not up to it. He's clearly, they're spoon feeding him, pablum every day and tell him, oh, you're doing a great job, Mr. President. Just keep doing what we tell you to do. Everything will be fine. Everything will be good. Everything will be hunky-dory. And by the way, no, we're going to put you on the short stairs. And yeah, you're going to get escorted out now to the podium each day by your wife so that you don't get lost. And she'll be right there to help you get off the stage as soon as it's over, Mr. President, because we don't want you wandering around like you don't know what you're doing. But you're doing a good job, Mr. President. Hey, guess what? We're going to get you some chocolate chip and maybe a smoothie if you're a good boy. He's not in charge. I mean, he may actually be the president of the United States, but I just don't feel like, he's a figurehead, and that the real presidency, I think, is his staff. They're the ones running the country without much guidance from this aging old man who can't put a sentence together. Well, I wish that they would get together and debate. I don't think there's going to be any debate at all. Because I think Trump would love to have a debate with him, love to get him on a stage. But Biden's not going to debate him on a stage. There will never be a debate. First of all, I think there's a good possibility that by the time we get to the conventions, long before we get into the debate stage of this whole thing, that they will have whatever they're going to do, the Democrats will have done, and it will be moot. And the reason that they don't go ahead, I think, and do it now is that the moment that he says, I'm not running, I feel like I can't get, it raises all kinds of questions. I mean, first of all, you're not running because you feel like you're not up to it? Well, you're still the president. Maybe we need to do something about that. Now, there's that. And then the second part of it is I think that he becomes instantly a lame duck, and nothing that he would like to have can be accomplished once we know, well, you're on the way out, so we're not going to deal with you. So the bottom line is I don't see it as something that they can happen until he gets to convention. But by the time they make the change, then maybe there will be a debate, but it won't be with Joe Biden. I just can't imagine that they'd allow that to happen. So, if they do, the Americans will have to make a decision about who's best to lead this country without ever seeing those two go mano a mano on a debate stage. And I think that's just wrong. But that's the way it is when you have a guy who can barely put together their sentence and who thinks that the current president of France is a guy who died many years ago. 50 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
President Biden speaks on the latest quote-unquote bipartisan border bill. A horse shot and killed in Tennessee prompts an investigation. Debt climbing around the nation, and Tennessee ranking pretty high on a list that we shouldn't want to be on. Those stories and more coming up 4 o'clock. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right. Thank you, Mac Morey. Let's take a look at the market right now. Dow Jones Industrial are up 141 on the close. S&P is up 11. NASDAQ also up 11, so screens are all green. What's going on out there? Well, as is often the case, it all has to do about what the Fed might do with regard to interest rates. Standing by with more on that over at Beacon Capital Management is our friend John Maxon. Hello, John.
Hey, good afternoon, Brian. Yeah, you're right. It started over the weekend, as we talked about yesterday with Jerome Powell's comments. And really, the market's sort of in this tug of war. There's so much this week with a lot of different Fed officials that are coming out and speaking. Of course, Jerome Powell came out, and they really tried to dampen the market's expectation, which originally a couple of months ago was expecting a rate cut in March. That's probably not going to happen. 2 additional Fed presidents, Minneapolis, and then also came out today kind of echoing the same thing, which sort of left the market sort of at a standstill. So what the market's really looking at the rest of the week is going to be additional earnings. Ford just reported after the bell. And so if the earnings are positive, we may see a positive direction in the market. If not, then we could see a little bit of a pullback.
All right. Thank you very much, John. And you can learn about all the things that John and the other folks over at Beacon Capital Management can do to help you secure a good retirement. Just go to their website, askbeaconnow.com. 59 minutes past the hour at 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
.401, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. 59 degrees in Music City, plenty of sunshine. Traffic complete weather forecast coming up in 5 minutes. President Biden spoke today about the latest on the bipartisan border bill and funding for Ukraine and Israel. He criticized former President Trump and congressional Republicans, accusing them of blowing up a deal. Karen Travers.
In a forceful political speech at the White House, President Biden slammed former President Trump for pressuring congressional Republicans to oppose the bipartisan border bill.
He's not interested in solving the border problem. He wants a political issue to run against me.
The president said Republicans have a choice to make.
Who do they serve? Donald Trump or the American people?
The president continued saying, quote, "We can't continue to let petty partisan politics get in the way of our responsibility. We're a great nation, just not acting like a great nation." and the Senate will vote this week to show on the record which Republicans reject the deal. An active investigation in Tennessee, a horse was shot and killed in Humphreys County last night. Officials are trying to figure out if the animal was shot with criminal intent or if the horse was a victim of spotlighting, which is a method of hunting using high-powered lights to reveal the eye shine of targeted animals. The horse, Bella, was a 12-year-old barrel racer. It's illegal in Tennessee to use any artificial light to hunt deer, and it's punishable as a Class B misdemeanor. A reward of $5,000 is being offered by the family for any information. Some money news. Household debt continues to climb as Americans continue to spend. Brian Clark with a look at how much we owe.
Total household debt increased by $212 billion in the fourth quarter. It now totals $17.5 trillion. The New York Fed's report on household debt and credit found that credit card balances alone are now more than $1 trillion. They increased by $50 billion in the quarter. Auto loans continue to trend that dates back to 2011. They rose by $12 billion, and more Americans are delinquent. Delinquency rates were up in every category except student loans.
Right now in Tennessee, Channel 4 reported on a study done by Wallet Hub, which ranked the most sinful states in America. Tennessee was higher than we would have wanted. Volunteer State came in at number 5. Wallet Hub says they compared 50 states across 55 indicators of immoral or illicit behavior, including violent crimes, excessive drinking, and gambling disorders among the population. Tennessee was ranked 3rd for anger and hatred, 15th for jealousy, 2nd for excesses and vices, 11th for greed, and 5th for lust. Nevada, Louisiana, California, and Florida came in ahead of Tennessee. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's 7 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair on this Tuesday, February 6th, hour number 2 underway. We're here every day, 4 hours a day, Monday through Friday, bringing you news and information news from around the world, across the nation, up your street, and actually up your alley. We'll give you all that stuff. So, just settle in, buckle up, get home safely. We don't have any, nuclear waste on the highways today, like we did yesterday.
Well, there might be. We just it hasn't broken down and caught fire yet.
That's right. Nothing that we know of is going on out there. But we'll get you home safely and give you something to talk about. One little weird story that's been bouncing around for a couple of days has to do with Tucker Carlson. I didn't know what to read into it because, nobody has been able to get it confirmed. But there were reports that Tucker Carlson was in Moscow. And then earlier this morning, there was a report that Tucker Carlson had been seen leaving the Kremlin, or at least the car that he was known to be riding around Moscow in was seen leaving the Kremlin. So it was the speculation that he was in it. And then later we get a confirmation that apparently Tucker Carlson has conducted an interview with Vladimir Putin. And at the White House today, the question was asked, because apparently Tucker has made it known that he says that there was interference by the Biden administration, him trying to go over there and get this interview. And Karine Jean-Pierre was asked about that, and she had a snippy answer.
The right to know all they can about a war they're implicated in. Carlson contended in his preview video that the Biden administration has opposed and even attempted to hinder his attempts to interview Putin. Do you have...
Wait, say that last part again?
He said that the Biden administration has allegedly attempted to prevent him from interviewing Vladimir Putin.
First of all, how does she not know this? How do you walk into a briefing room at the White House and not know the background on stories that are percolating? I mean, your job is to go out there and be ready to take on any question that might come your way, and be prepared for it. And it's been talked about for days that he might be in Moscow, and she doesn't seem to be aware of it, but she answered, rather snippily.
Do you have a comment on either the interview or that allegation?
Absolutely not.
And for the board?
Absolutely not a comment, or absolutely not that didn't happen?
Absolutely not a comment, to be more clear, period.
So, no comment from the White House about Tucker Carlson and what he might be up to. I don't know what he's up to. Be interesting to see. Tucker's been among those who have been supportive of Moscow and not Ukraine, and suggest that we haven't been getting the good read on the Ukrainian situation. So it'll be interesting to see what he's up to there, and maybe in due time we'll find out. There was a major ruling today, and it's not a good ruling for Donald Trump. It's not over, but it's not a genuinely good ruling from a D.C. appeals court with regard to the January 6th case that they're bringing against him at the Department of Justice. From the Epoch Times, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit ruled that former President Donald Trump was not immune to prosecution for conduct that the Justice Department included in its indictment related to the events of January 6, 2021. We have balanced former President Trump's asserted interest in executive immunity against the vital public interest that favor allowing the prosecution to proceed. We conclude that concerns of public policy, especially as illuminated by our history and the structure of our government, compel the rejection of this claim of immunity in this case. And then they went on citing a great number of precedents in the matter. The appeal was heard by Judge Karen Henderson, Michelle Childs, and Florence Pahn. The decision was unanimous. Notably, the judges seemed to sidestep, according to the Epoch Times, an interpretation of the president's immunity as it pertains to criminal prosecutions. The Supreme Court has repeatedly upheld broad immunity from civil suits, but has not established immunity from criminal prosecution. For the purposes of this criminal case, former President Trump has become Citizen Trump, with all of the defenses of any other criminal defendant, the judges wrote, but any executive immunity that may have protected him while he served as president no longer protect him against prosecution. And there you go. That seems to be the decision. Special counsel Jack Smith's request to fast-track the case could end up in the Supreme Court. See, this is what will happen. Now, there's a whole litany of things that the president of the United States, the former president of the United States can do in regard to this. He has a lot of legal options. Now, this is complex constitutional law stuff. And when it gets to be that complex, I love to turn to Jonathan Turley and have him explain exactly what's going on. And he was on Fox News earlier today saying, still a long way to go here. Not a real surprise that this ruled this way, but as some reporters have said, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, and it may take some time for this whole thing to be adjudicated to the nth degree.
This is the result that some of us predicted. The panel was very skeptical of these arguments. What former President Trump was advancing was a sweeping and unprecedented claim of immunity. And it's not surprising that this panel rejected it. The interesting thing about this opinion is that they cite the impeachment and quote from it as saying that the president sought to incite this effort to overturn the election. And that's going to go now forward. The most practical impact of this appeal was indeed the delay that it caused. It was very important for the Trump team to try to push this trial back. They succeeded in doing that, as you mentioned. Now, the next stage here is that they can ask for review of the entire court in what's called an in-bank petition. That has to be reviewed and voted on, even if they reject it, and that'll take some time. And then they will no doubt appeal to the Supreme Court, which now has a considerable stack on the desks of these justices, including election-related cases. Jack Smith has been telling every court it's absolutely urgent that we move this trial forward. And he made it clear that he wants this president tried and convicted before the election. The Supreme Court clearly didn't share that urgency. It refused to do that. And so it's not clear that they're going to feel even greater urgency now. The March date is not on the calendar anymore. And as we move towards the election date, it gets more controversial to have a trial of this kind within a couple of months of the election.
So, as we told you the other day, there are, as you heard Jonathan Turley explain there are a great number of options that are available to the former president. The first thing he can do is attorneys can act and say, let's go to the full D.C. Court of Appeals. My memory serves me correct. I think there are 9 justices. I could be wrong, but I think it's 9. Have all of them hear it. Now, the D.C. Court of Appeals can accept or reject that request and have it heard by a larger number of judges. If they reject it, then the next thing, if they accept it, then it's going to take a while. If they reject it, it then, could be appealed to the Supreme Court. And then the question is, what would they do? Would they take the case or would they reject it out of hand? So far, they've not been wanting to get in. Boy, the Supreme Court hates these kinds of cases. They really do. So, and again, you have to look at, now we're getting, into a situation where the courts are going to be ruling on matters as we are deeper and deeper into election season, because whatever happens is going to take some time. And will they not want to get involved in making a decision of this nature when we're in the throes of a campaign? That's why I told you earlier that this is going to be a rock and roll election like we have never seen before. Now, the former president will seek an appeal to safeguard, they say, the presidency and the Constitution. This from Stephen Chung, a Trump spokesman. If immunity is not granted to president, every future president who leaves office will immediately be indicted by the opposing party. Prosecuting a president for official acts violates the Constitution and threatens the bedrock of our republic. Trump, the Republican frontrunner, facing 4 criminal indictments. I'm not sure how this thing is going to go. I mean, the case in Georgia is in all kinds of trouble because of Fannie having a relationship with the prosecutor, and there's all kinds of questions about that whole decision process and how it was made. And then this one's been tied up in court and could be tied up all the way to the Supreme Court for an undetermined amount of time. If they move quick, then maybe the trial begins in a month or a month and a half. But, my experience is that it's really rare for the high court and the appeal court to move on anything of this nature very quickly. So it's interesting how that's all going. So we continue to watch this stuff and see exactly how it plays out. Let's see, here's another take on it. This one from the Wall Street Journal. A 3-judge panel of the U.S. Court of Appeals dismissed Trump's arguments that his efforts during the final months of his presidency to undo his loss, including promoting claims of voter fraud, fell within the ambit of his official duties, that it was a crucial tenet of Trump's defense. For the purpose of the criminal case, former President Trump has become Citizen Trump. It's, by the way, a 57-page opinion, laying out a lot of the legal precedents for the case. But you know what? That's the thing about lawyers. They can take these legal precedents, they can argue them round, they can argue them square. Mostly attorneys just like to argue. What's the old saying? If you're strong on the facts, then you pound the facts. If you're strong on the law, you pound the law when you're an attorney. And if you're not strong on the facts or the law, you pound the table. So there you go. There'll be a lot of table pounding going on, I think, in the next few days. Not a great ruling, but it's long from over, and it's going to take a long time to figure out exactly whether or not this is going to go to the high court or not go to the high court. And if it does go to the high court, there's no timetable here. Nobody knows how long it will take them to make a decision. And so, again, this is going to be an election season like none other that we have ever seen. 20 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk. Oh, listen, many of you have lived here for a long time, and you know about Europix. They've been in Middle Tennessee. They've been the place to go for your European car repair now for 24 years. And, we've all watched them grow over the years. Well, I don't know about you, but I love watching a hometown business take off. Oh, they're proud to announce the 5th location, this time in Mount Juliet, for Europix on Mount Juliet Road, right across from the Dairy Queen. Europix can serve you in Franklin, 100 Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now Mount Juliet. It's pretty cool getting to watch a small-town mechanic, starting in a barn in the backyard of a single-wide trailer, grow to 5 locations, now repairing thousands of cars each month. At Europix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. So call 844-EUROFIX. That's 844-EUROFIX, or visit myEuroFix.com and tell them your friend and radio buddy Brian Wilson sent you.
An update on the border deal and the latest money news. Those stories 30 minutes after the hour at 4 o'clock. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, it is 25 minutes now past the hour. There's Mac Morey with all the stories, and Chris Webber in the control room. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy. You know, I am, as you know, a big space geek. I really love all things related to space and follow it sort of avidly. You know, in 1977, they launched the Voyager spacecraft, and it was the first, sort of probe into our solar system that was going to see some of the outer planets, and it went on a circuitous route across the solar system, our solar system, and then, all the way it went past, Mars, it went past Saturn, it went past Jupiter, it went past, Neptune and Uranus and I'm sorry, I have to say, and then Pluto apparently got missed, but Pluto's not a planet. I know we all know it's a planet. Oh. Let's not start that debate again. Yeah. I feel sorry for Pluto. Pluto, it gets no respect, but it's a planet. I don't care what they say. And then it continued out beyond our solar system. It's still traveling. It's been going since 1977. You might think, well, at some point we would lose contact with it, or the batteries would run out, or something. It's powered by a nuclear generator, so it's going to go for a long, long time. And they have been in contact with this thing, even as it goes out beyond the edges of our own solar system, deeper and deeper into the what's beyond, and they communicate with it on a daily basis. Well, they've been having trouble of late with Voyager 1. There's Voyager 1, Voyager 2. Voyager 1 apparently is not acting just right. One of its computers might be acting up. They've done this. They've gone through this whole thing several times where they have to figure out what's wrong, and then they send commands to the spacecraft and see, and then they got to find out, well, does that fix the thing or does that make it worse? If you make it too much worse, then you run the risk of losing. And there's still scientific data that they want to get out of this probe. It's still producing usable data.
Wasn't it like when they sent it up, they only anticipated getting a couple of years out of it or something like that?
Well, they thought they hoped to get out, to the edge of the solar system, but they never expected that it would be going as far as it has. And, they have pulled off miracle after miracle after miracle. Well, apparently here's the problem, why it takes so long to fix something like this. It's 15 billion miles away.
Wow.
And if you send it a command, by radio, it takes 22 and a half hours for it to receive the command.
Man.
Radio's waves travel at the speed of light, which is, if I believe I'm correct in saying, is 186,000 miles per second.
Mm-hmm.
And even at that, it takes 22 hours.
Wow.
To reach the probe. And then it takes 22 hours for any response from the spacecraft to come back, which is a total of 45 hours. So you send it a command today, and then you come back 45 hours later to see whether it worked or not.
Talk about sitting on the edge of your seat.
I know. Remember dial-up modems? That's the way it is. Really, honestly, it takes forever. But they apparently are continuing to work this problem. And it just may take them a while, they say, to figure it out. But it's remarkable sometimes what NASA, they over-engineer everything. And what they do is they, eventually these things will crash and quit working and they'll lose contact with it. But this thing is going out beyond our solar system. And it by the way, it carries a record, like an LP of sounds that come from Earth, and maybe it's like the sounds of whales. It's a metallic record, but they think that they gave them instructions if anybody were to encounter it of how to translate the data that's on this disc, right? and so there's sounds of whales and different animals, and for some reason Chuck Berry. They put some Chuck Berry on there.
Nice.
And the old joke was that we heard back from somebody who encountered Voyager. And the message from the aliens was, please send more Chuck Berry.
Yeah.
So, which I can understand that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But isn't that amazing? 45 hours just to send a signal and then get an answer back.
Well, it's just amazing to me that it's been going for almost 50 years and it still works.
Yeah, it's amazing. It really is quite amazing. I mean, it's sort of like me. I mean, in 1977, I was just a couple of years out of high school, and I'm still working.
Yeah.
So,
But we have to replace our cell phones every year or two.
That's right.
That thing is satellite billions of miles away. Still
well,
works.
and they did the same thing with those Voyager, not the little devices that roamed around Mars, the little rovers. They weren't supposed to last, but just maybe a few months.
Yeah,
and they made those, and I think there's one that's still up there working, and some of them have crashed and are no longer working. But I mean, they're able to squeeze out a lot of stuff once they get there. The Hubble, for example, is well beyond its life expectancy. It's still doing good science every day. So, I think sure, every once in a while a rocket blows up. Yeah, every once in a while, something doesn't land the way it's supposed to land. It crashes. But when you talk about the history of NASA, you're talking about, to some degree, some tremendous success stories where we have gotten a lot of bang for our buck in the way of science. I don't know. That's my take on it. 30 minutes now past the hour, 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
.30, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 57 degrees, a clear day in Nashville. Forecast, latest traffic report just ahead, 5 minutes. Starting in the nation's capital, Republicans say the Senate border deal is going nowhere, but they could revive a standalone bill to keep funding the wars in Ukraine and Israel. Andy Field with the latest.
Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell saying there's no point voting for the border bill if the Republican House Speaker says it won't get past his members. But
there are other parts of this supplemental that are extremely important as well. Ukraine, Israel, Taiwan.
The Republican-controlled House, however, plans to vote on an Israel-only funding bill, leaving even this Senate proposal up in the air.
And the Senate will vote on the whole border bill this week to show on record which Republicans reject that deal. Now over to the money news. Here's Daria Albinger letting us know the action on the market.
Stocks closed higher a day after some big losses. The Dow rose 141 points, while the Nasdaq and the S&P both called it a day up 11 points. For the second time in as many days, we're getting a bleak look at credit card debt. The New York Federal Reserve says more than 3% of outstanding debt was in some stage of delinquency. Oh, the tax man, you may want to pay up as soon as you can. The IRS says it expects to collect hundreds of billions of dollars in overdue and unpaid taxes thanks to additional funding from the Inflation Reduction Act. The NTSB says bolts, which helped secure a panel of the Alaska Airlines Boeing 737, were missing before the panel blew off in mid-flight last month. Alaska and United are the only U.S. carriers that use a particular model of the MAX. Both have been returning their planes to service since the FAA approved guidelines for inspections of the part.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
It is 4:37 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Brian Wilson in the chair. We're bringing you news and information. We got a lot of stuff going on. And boy, I mean, the border thing is heated up. Two big developments here. Number one, the border deal that had been negotiated by the White House and a few people up on the Senate is, I mean, by all purposes, it seems to be dead, not going anywhere. I'll get into that in a little bit. The other thing is going on is that impeachment, articles of impeachment are now being debated on the floor of the House, and that process is now underway. So big developments as the situation continues. And then there's this. I mean, my goodness, it just angers me when I hear this, and I know it's going to anger you because, you know the problem we're having down the border. Silly me. I thought it was the policies of the Biden administration that were causing it, but apparently no. It's Donald Trump's fault and your fault. That's right. It's your fault. It's my fault. I'm so sorry. I didn't know it was my fault. But that's what the president says.
Every day between now and November, the American people are going to know that the only reason the border is not secure is Donald Trump and his MAGA Republican friends.
You know what I have to say to that? I mean, that is exactly what that is. I mean, on what planet does any living human being who even if you like what the president is doing, you have to acknowledge that this is not Donald Trump's doing. This is not his MAGA friends doing. What we have on the border is the direct result of a president who changed the policies that were in effect and exacerbated the situation. Oh, no, it's the Republicans' fault. It's Donald Trump's fault. It's his MAGA friends' fault. Man, I'm telling you, this. All right, you know who's been to the border? I mean, is there anybody that, you trust more than Dr. Phil? I like Dr. Phil. I have to say. I mean, when I work mornings, I'd find myself, coming home, taking a little nap, getting up in the afternoon, watching Dr. Phil. And I can't. It was a guilty pleasure, a guilty habit, watching Dr. Phil in the afternoons. And he'd talk about, all the things that were going on. And he had a way of, pointing out to people, that what they were saying was dumb. Say, well, how's that policy working out for you? He'd ask. But he went to the border and looked at it from his perspective. He's angry. He's angry like a lot of Americans. And he's coming out and he's talking about what he saw and what he learned there. Here's Dr. Phil.
One of the most fundamental psychological principles is you don't reward bad behavior.
Boy, is that true? I mean, right there. Even if you didn't learn anything else today, that is a great truth. That if you reward bad behavior, guess what happens? The bad behavior continues. That's good. That's good advice if you're raising kids. I mean, because kids only do what works. And if you reward bad behavior, guess what? The kids respond and they just do it again. And if you're raising French bulldogs, and believe me, I know this, that if you reward bad behavior, you get more bad behavior. And it's true in politics as well. So, I mean, I love that little bit of tidbit.
One of the most fundamental psychological principles is you don't reward bad behavior. And I wanted to go talk to the guys that are heading this up. And I have to tell you, you talk about some impressive troops down there. These guys are fighting a morale battle because they can't get what they need. And I wanted to know what's happening down here. What's really going on? We hear this number, 6 million people have come across under the current administration. I talked to experts down there that say that number is a myth, that it's closer to 13 to 14 million.
Wow.
That have come across. And I asked them straight up, what is it you need here? And I was shocked to hear them say, we don't need more money. We don't need more resources. We don't need more officers. We don't need more legislation. We just need the laws that are on the books to be followed. We need to be allowed to do our job, and we can get this under control right now. We don't need a bunch more money, officers, and legislation. Just let us do our job. That's all we need. And if you'll do that, we can get this under control overnight.
Well, I think if only somebody else had been saying that it's within the president's control to fix this as Dr. Phil said, like that. That's all it takes, is he just has to undo what he did. 94 during different executive actions that caused the chaos we have on the border. Now, as you know, there's been a big standoff, and the Republican Speaker of the House and quite a few Republicans in the Senate have said to the Biden administration, no more money for Ukraine, no more money for Israel or anybody else until we fix the situation on the border. And there have been some negotiations, and they came up with something that they call a border bill. It was negotiated, largely by a handful of people, and only revealed over the weekend. And the Speaker of the House said, "Look, we can't go for this. We can't go for that." It's like that Hall & Oates song. I can't go for that. I can't do that because it just makes things worse.
We got a supplemental funding proposal with immigration provisions. It's not a border security bill. It doesn't do anything of the sort. In fact, in our view, after a careful, thoughtful review of this, we believe that if those provisions were to make law, it might actually make the situation worse.
So he says it's dead on arrival in the House of Representatives, which means it ain't going anywhere. It's not going to happen. Give up on it. It's dead. Not breathing. But it's also apparently dead in the Senate. See, now remember, in the Senate, everybody thinks, well, if you get 51 votes, you win. That's not really true. Difficult things take 60 votes. There's a little thing called cloture, and you have to overcome cloture, and they invoke cloture, and you got to have 60 votes to move anything off dead center if it's controversial in the least little bit, and this is clearly that. I don't think they're going to get 60 votes because it sounds like even Mitch McCall has decided that we're going to go ahead and we're not going to accept this. They had a big meeting, I guess, and had a conversation about it, and they decided that we can't support it. Even Mitch McConnell says he can't support it. Now there's even this Senator Lankford out of Oklahoma, who actually was part of the negotiating team, is now saying he's not sure he can vote for it. I don't know. Senator Johnson says, well, let's focus on doing something that actually could get through the House of Representatives.
We don't want to codify Biden's open door policy. We don't want to hurt the next Republican administration from their ability to secure the border, which is what Americans want. And we ought to try to figure out how to do something the House will actually pass.
That's right. I mean, it doesn't matter. You can do anything you want to do over in the Senate, but if it ain't going to get through the House, it ain't going nowhere. And stand your ground, my friends. Please stand your ground. So, dead in the House, likely dead in the Senate. Can they get 60 votes? I don't think they can. Because it sounds like the fix is in and that Republicans are going to vote against this proposal, which means, we're not going to give any money to Israel. I'm not going to give any money to Ukraine. Now, the House has come up with an individual standalone bill to support Israel. The Biden administration says it wants $14 billion. They've come up with a standalone bill that's $17 billion, more than the president was asking for over in the House of Representatives. But now the White House is saying, well, that's a political stunt. Well, not if you want money for Israel. How badly do you really want the money for Israel? If you want it bad, then you take this standalone measure and you go, and we continue to fight out on the other things. By the way, Ted Cruz always has a way of cutting through all the stuff. He said, to this statement from President Biden that somehow this is the fault of Trump and the MAGA Republicans.
He halted construction on the border wall. He reinstated the disastrous policy of catch and release, and he pulled out of the unbelievably successful Remain in Mexico agreement. That caused this explosion.
All right. Now let's move on to the third phase of this particular border story, and that is the impeachment of Alejandro Mayorkas, the Secretary of Homeland Security. He is I feel like very likely to be impeached, although it's not a certain vote. Right now, there's some question about whether or not Republicans will have, and with their narrow margins, if all the Republicans stand together, then he will be impeached in the House and then be sent over to the Senate. I don't think he's going to be convicted in the Senate, but one way or the other, it moves forward. It's close, though. Mark Green, our own Mark Green from Tennessee's 7th Congressional District, was the person carrying this on the floor, as he is the chairman of the House Homeland Security Committee. He's talking today on the floor, defending the articles of impeachment that have come from his committee.
We're here because our oath and our duty compel us to be here. The actions and decisions of Secretary Mayorkas have left us with no other option than to proceed with articles of impeachment.
Yeah, I mean, this is where we are. They haven't done what they're supposed to do. They have circumvented the law and to do what they please, as this administration often does. They're lawless. They truly are lawless. They look at the law and they say, we don't care about the law. Oh, sure, we'll get sued, but let's see how far we can get down the path before that happens. They just don't care about precedent or properly interpreting legislative intent. Over at the White House, they just think that what's happening to Alejandro Mayorkas is shameful.
They're doing to Secretary Mayorkas is baseless, is shameful. That's not what the Americans want to see. Americans want to see Congress coming together in a bipartisan way, just like the Senate was able to do in coming forward with a bipartisan bill to deal with the border, to deal with an immigration issue that the president believes is so important.
Well, he believes it's so important, then why doesn't he just, as Dr. Phil said, snap your fingers, make it happen? You can do it. All it takes is a pen and a phone call, and you can do it. You did it before. You caused this problem. You can undo it. You don't need any congressional movement to do it. You just simply undo your executive orders, and things can return to some spate of normalcy. Wouldn't that be something? It's maddening that these kinds of political games are being played now. As I like to say, we're in the silly season. Anything that happens now is not, you have to understand that it has to be viewed through the lens of the fact that we're in an election. And everybody's looking to gain a little political advantage or to hurt the other guy. And one way or the other, that's what's going on here now. And you, as American citizens, should be angry that we can't get this thing straightened out. And in the meantime, if Dr. Phil is right, and the people he talked to is right, 13 or 14 million people in this country illegally, and a bunch of them bad people that we don't know anything about where they are, where they went, what they're up to. We don't have any clue. Ladies and gentlemen, these are trying times and dangerous times for this country. 50 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock.
The immigration Senate bill not getting any closer. Mayorkas impeachment voting starting today. Street racing in Tennessee, and that rapper who was arrested at the Grammys making his first public statement since that incident. Those stories and more coming up 5 o'clock. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Well, listen, we got a lot more ahead here on Super Talk 99.7. According to my rundown here, we're going to be talking about the state of the state with the governor last night, and why was he heckled and why wasn't something done about it? I have the answers to that. Also, we're getting some new information about that drone attack that killed 3 Americans. Troubling information coming in on that now. I'll share it with you coming up in the next hour, right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right, Valentine's Day is literally right around the corner, 9 days away. You're looking for the most thoughtful, romantic gift for the one that you love this Valentine's Day? Well, why don't you just go see the folks at Genesis Diamonds? Maybe it's a simple pendant or an exquisite one-of-a-kind designer ring. Genesis can help you pick out the most memorable and special piece of jewelry for the occasion. And to make it sweeter, and this is the good part, guys, now till Valentine's Day, whether you spend $199 or $199,000, Genesis will give you some chocolates, fresh flowers, and dinner out at no charge. It's a great deal. I mean, it's a one-stop ultimate Valentine's experience. When you buy one piece of jewelry, beautiful jewelry, they will give you some beautiful chocolates, some flowers from Jenny's Florist, and dinner at STK Steakhouse. I mean, that's a pretty swank place, I'll tell you. So stop wasting time. Get to Genesis Diamonds. They've got a spectacular collection of memorable romantic gifts that start at $199 and go all the way up to $199,000. Right now, they're going to throw in chocolates, flowers, and dinner out at no extra charge. Happy Valentine's Day from Genesis Diamonds, 2 locations, Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Five o'clock, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. Another gorgeous day in the mid-state, 56 degrees in Tennessee. Traffic complete weather forecast coming up in 5 minutes. Starting in the nation's capital, the top Republican in the Senate says a compromise bill that combines Ukraine and Israel funding with new immigration restrictions appears to be dead. A breakthrough in talks was announced Sunday night by a bipartisan group of senators, but it quickly faced opposition from Republicans and even former President Trump. Karen Travers asked the White House about this at today's briefing. Has the latest.
The White House says it is, quote, deeply disappointing that Republican Senator Mitch McConnell said Tuesday the Senate has no real chance to turn the bipartisan border deal into law. Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre telling me.
Obviously, Mitch McConnell is part of leadership there. And so obviously what he says has weight. But it is disappointing to hear.
Jean-Pierre said congressional Republicans are letting politics get in the way of policy and delivering for Americans.
And the Senate will vote this week to show on the record which Republicans reject the deal. Staying in the nation's capital, the House expected to vote on impeachment articles against Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas today. It comes as lawmakers are also considering that bipartisan legislation we just discussed. Here's Republican House of Homeland Security Chairman and Tennessee Representative Mark Green during his remarks on the floor.
The actions and decisions of Secretary Mayorkas have left us with no other option than to proceed with articles of impeachment. That is why we must remove him from office.
And that was going on while the House was engaging in a period of debate on the Mayorkas impeachment articles ahead of the vote. Meanwhile, Democratic representative out of Maryland, Benny Thompson, called Republicans voting no a, quote, politically motivated sham impeachment. Crime in Tennessee, a street racer, 25-year-old David Scott Smith, has been arrested after performing dangerous stunts in South Nashville. Smith surrendered his 2008 Ford Mustang. He's believed to be a part of a local street racer group. He faced 2 counts of felony reckless endangerment and 2 counts of rioting. In some entertainment news, rapper Killer Mike making his first public statement since his wins and arrest at the Grammys Sunday night. Here's more from Jason Nathanson.
Killer Mike won 3 Grammys Sunday night at the show before the show for his album Michael and the song Scientists and Engineers. Then after the wins, was arrested as he tried to go into the main televised ceremony. In a statement, Mike says there was some confusion around which door he and his team were supposed to enter, and he, quote, experienced an overzealous security guard. He says he's confident he'll be cleared of all wrongdoing. Mike was arrested on misdemeanor battery charges.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's 7 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. We're into hour number 3 of the drive. We got 2 hours down, 2 hours to go. We're with you till 7 o'clock, so, you buckle up, everybody. We'll try to give you some news and information as you make the way home. At least today, there is no, what do they call it? Radioactive waste. That's right. There's no radioactive waste burning on I-40 as far as we know.
No, but if you sniff real closely or carefully, you may smell someone smoking weed as they make their way
that's entirely possible, I can imagine. Yeah. No, I mean, it was bad. Yesterday was a weird day. Tough day to be, having to go certain directions. But as far as we know, things are going fairly smoothly today. I mean, when the next thing is we have radioactive waste that's on fire.
It's not what you want to hear.
No, it's not what you want to hear. Now, it turns out that it was a little less than advertised. But, I mean, anytime you have, very, hazardous materials that are on fire, even if they take all the precautions to make sure that they don't leak and what have you, they're going to be extra careful.
Absolutely.
And it just slows things down. So what a mess that was. Glad that is over. There's a story been breaking here for the last couple of hours about the 3 U.S. service people who died in the attacks from the drone that was sent at what they call Tower 22 right on the border with Jordan and Syria. And they are now saying, this from the Washington Post, drone that killed U.S. troops in Jordan likely went undetected. The military's initial assessment of the attack also has found that there was no air defense system on site capable of shooting down the aircraft. Our people are just sitting ducks out there. U.S. forces probably did not detect the approach of the Iranian-made drone that killed 3 American soldiers last week at a remote base in Jordan, and there was no air defense system on site capable of shooting it down, the military's initial assessment of the attack has found. The early findings, which have not been reported until now, indicate that the drone may have been missed due to its low flight path. A U.S. defense official with direct knowledge of the assessment told the Washington Post. Additionally, this person said the base, known as Tower 22, was not outfitted with weapons that can actually kill aerial threats like drones, and instead relied on electronic warfare systems designed to disable them or disrupt their path to a target. Well, listen, if it's flying right on the ground, that's hard to pick up. That's what, that's I'll have to say, these folks out there who are wanting to do us harm are not stupid. They may not be on the right, but they are not dumb, and they're using everything they have at their ability to hurt us. But we ought to have something out there that seems that could shoot these things down. The Pentagon was asked about this today, and here is their spokesman.
When Governor Bill Lee got to the topic of school...
Excuse me, that's coming up in a minute. Here.
We're still assessing exactly what happened in that attack. And, of course, CENTCOM and the Secretary will determine if there's any change or needs to be any change to our defensive posture at Tower 22 or any other base in the region. But I just don't have more for you on that specific attack. When I do, definitely let you know.
Yeah, which means, they're not... She wasn't going to give them anything. Not tell us anything. Well, okay, we'll continue to watch that story. Let me talk about the governor's State of the State address. As you know, last night in the 6 o'clock hour, we ran the address. It went about 50 minutes, and the governor laid out a lot of his visions for the state. And first and foremost of them is, and the thing that is probably going to be the most interesting and the most controversial, is his idea to provide school vouchers so that the money goes to the student and follows the student. If the student wants to get out of a public school and go to some kind of private academy, etc., then the money could be used in that regard. And, it gives a lot of kids who are in bad school districts an opportunity to get out of those bad school districts and maybe do better so that they can get an education and move on and be productive citizens. One way, either learning some trade or going on to college and getting a college education, whatever they decide is best. But for one thing, making sure that they can read and write and do math. Believe me, it's shocking to me that in the state of Tennessee, we still have schools that cannot teach kids how to read and write. I guess they're just worried about too many other things, too many, social, programs, and making sure that everybody's woke instead of actually teaching the kids and making sure that they're learning something. So that's the idea of this whole proposal that he put forward. And as he gave his address last night, as soon as he started talking about education, which, again, is going to be controversial. I support it, but it's going to be controversial. Immediately the heckling began, and the heckling did not go away. In fact, much of the reporting that you see about this today doesn't really focus on what the governor said, but on the fact that he was heckled. Well, that's unfair, but I mean, I do think it's important that we discuss this. I'll discuss the other as well here in a moment. Somebody who got this, I think, is sort of focused on just that, and I'm not criticizing in any way because they also talked about what was in the governor's proposal. But they had one reporter who was focused to see, well, is there going to be any trouble? I think probably everybody saw it coming. His name's Chris Davis, works for Channel 5, and here's a little bit of what he observed there in the gallery. It was from the gallery, not the floor.
When Governor Bill Lee got to the topic of school choice,
it's time that we let parents decide, and not the government, where their child goes to school and what they learn.
Things went a little off script.
Public schools are invaluable. We can give parents choice and support public schools at the same time.
Troopers stood by watching but never removed any hecklers, despite efforts from the governor.
Civility is a strength. It is not a weakness.
And someone else in the crowd.
Children are dying.
Let the governor speak uninterrupted, please.
The jeers from the gallery continue.
And we're working on a plan to help public schools retain the best and brightest teachers in their individual districts.
Well, I mean, it really was rude, and it continued for most of the rest of his speech all the way, even though they weren't talking about education. It continued. It was rude. It was really reprehensible, and kudos to the governor for just plowing through and continuing to stay on track, not letting him rattle him, and just, trying to say, but it was, what was the purpose of this? What good came from that? And then the question that I had, and I started asking around about it today, is, why were they not thrown out on their ear? Why weren't they grabbed and rushed from the building and thrown outside or, brought under arrest for disorderly conduct, trying to disrupt a public meeting? There are all kinds of things they could have done. They chose not to do that. As you heard in the report, the troopers were right there, but they didn't take any move. So I asked this question today. I called the Speaker of the House, Cameron Sexton. We had a brief conversation. And by the way, he'll be on tomorrow at 4:05 to talk about this and other things, but largely about how it's going for the regular session of the General Assembly and what are the chances of this getting through, what changes might be made. He'll be with us at 4:05 tomorrow. But I asked him, why were they not thrown out? And he said, well, look, you have a situation where, we did consult with the governor. It is, after all, the governor's speech. Someone else told me, they said, when you have, a joint session of the House and Senate and the governor is giving the speech, there is a lot of deference given to the governor about how he wants to handle it. It wasn't like they weren't caught off guard. They knew that this was likely to happen. And the decision was made not to throw people out, and as long as the governor could continue to deliver the speech, he would plow through, and there would be no arrest. Because if you arrest them, then you make them martyrs, then you make them victims, then you blow them up, and they'll say, well, see, free speech is not allowed in the state of Tennessee. I mean, they'll make all those charges. And it would be the story for sure if they'd have thrown him out. Now the story is he was interrupted. And you know what? I think most people here in Middle Tennessee, I think we're pretty nice people. I think we're really nice folk. We believe in politeness. We believe in civility, except for the most part, unless you're on the highways and you cut somebody off. We're pretty civil people. This doesn't go over well. And it reveals them to be what they really are. Somebody who doesn't want to fix a problem, they just want to blow things up. And that's what they tried to do. And if there had been an arrest, it would have been worse. And so out of deference to the governor's belief on this matter and other reasons, they decided not to throw them out. I'm telling you, it's hard to not want to do that. But maybe the better way to go. You reveal them to be the jackasses that they are. Not to put too fine a point on it. All right, so there is that. Now, let's actually talk about the things that the governor was proposing, because there's some stuff in here. In addition to the voucher plan, which is the big one, $144 million, would serve up to 20,000 students in the first year, half of them restricted by family income. So in other words, there is a means testing on about 10,000 of them. The other half unrestricted by income level. And the other part of it is next year, the goal is to have it available to any student in the state who wants to take advantage of it. Public school funding, $261.3 million, would add to the K-12 education funding formula, including money for incremental raises to teachers, aimed at reaching $50,000 starting pay by the 26-27 school year. That's good. See, he made a point saying, look, it's not an attack against public education. If you like what's going on at your school, if you like the education your kid is getting, this doesn't impact you at all, because they're still going to fund public schools. As he pointed out, doing both is possible. You can have vouchers for schools that aren't working and also continue to support the schools that are. And if you like where your kid's going to school, you don't want to root them up, there's nobody going to make you do that. $1.6 billion for the franchise tax. It would include an ongoing $410 million franchise tax break and a $1.2 billion one-time money backfilled into current year's budget to give businesses tax refunds. Parks, we're going to get a bunch of new parks. I think he said $207.3 million, and that'll be exciting. $81 million for rural health. A rainy day fund will get an additional $20 million, and our state rainy day fund will be up to, at some point, $2 billion. Awesome. So good. State employees will get a 3% raise, about $49 million. State troopers, they're trying to find 60 new state troopers, supervisors and support staff, $17.4 million. School for mental health workers, $12 million. Behavioral health hospitals aims to increase access to complex mental health inpatient care, $15 million. Children's hospitals get $10 million to expand resources in children's hospitals to care for young patients with behavioral health concerns. Just a few of the highlights that the governor puts as his priorities. And again, as I mentioned, Speaker of the House Cameron Sexton will be our special guest tomorrow at 4:05. 4:05. Make a note of it. 21 past the hour now of 5 o'clock. How many times have you heard someone describe this thing or that thing as being, well, the gold standard? It's the gold standard in this, and it's the gold standard in that. Well, when it comes to finding an investment that protects you from runaway inflation, gold is the gold standard. It's a tried and true store of value consistent across generations. And maybe you thought about adding gold or other precious metals to your portfolio, but you feel like you don't have the knowledge you need to make a smart decision. I felt that way for sure. But I got the professional guidance I needed at Nashville Gold & Coin. And this is the way it works. You make an appointment. Then you sit down one-on-one with my friends at Nashville Gold & Coin. They'll answer all your questions, help you make the precious metals investments that are right for you. It's friendly. You'll learn a lot. You'll never be subjected to high-pressure sales. That's not what they're about. Gold and silver can be a safe haven in uncertain economic times, and they can answer your questions. And by the way, if you have some old coins laying around gathering dust, bring them along. You might be surprised just how much they're worth. To set up that one-on-one appointment, just go to NashvilleGoldandCoin.com. That's NashvilleGoldandCoin.com.
An impeachment vote for Mayorkas. It's happening today. Meta announcing some new measures concerning AI and a verdict in the Michigan trial of Jennifer Crumbley. It was a big one. 5:30 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat.
That's right. It's time for Mac Maury's Wide World of Sports. And now, here is the host of your program, without further ado. You know him, you love him, you can't live without him. The incomparable Mac Maury, ladies and gentlemen. Woo. Woo.
Hello, hello.
I mean, really, you got a band. You got the fanfare. You got Jim McKay.
Yeah, we pull out all the stops.
That's right. It's good to be you. Well, okay, let's get right to it. This is Super Bowl week, and we got a lot of stuff going on. What's our topic today? Because I failed to get the memo.
Well, so I was going to do some Super Bowl stuff. I was kind of debating that, or an update on the Tennessee NCAA violations, because we got, I don't want to do I don't want to just, be the Chiefs guy and talk Chiefs Super Bowl every day this week.
So I'm trying to. Want to.
Yeah, even though I really could. So I'm trying to taper that down. But then, Brian, as you know, as you've coined, breaking news changes everything.
Oh, really? Okay.
And actually, Weber notified me of this.
That, by the way, I didn't coin that. That was Shepard Smith. But go ahead.
Well, I'll just say it to you.
Okay.
To you coined it for me. So, Weber shared this with me earlier, and I thought it was very interesting and pertinent for this segment, and just huge as far as this new TV streaming world. ESPN, Fox, and Warner Brothers have announced they're going to launch a sports streaming platform solely for sports. It's going to have, NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, WNBA, NASCAR. It'll have college sports, men's and women's. It'll have March Madness. It'll have golf, tennis, FIFA, World Cup. They're trying to get everything in an all-in-one streaming platform. You'll be able to bundle it with either Hulu, Disney Plus, or Max. So one of those three you'll kind of pair it with. But yeah, this is going to be a huge new venture into the sports streaming world.
That's really big for anybody that's, like you, Mac, that's a huge sports fan.
Yeah, when I saw this, I just smile across my face. I was like, finally, something where I can just maybe get everything all in one. Just boom, I want sports. That's all I want.
You always have to look, where's that game going to be?
Exactly.
You got to go hunting around. It just be in one spot. One place, easy shopping.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, we'll see. I mean, there's still a lot of details to be worked out with it, pricing and all that sort of thing. But I would definitely be interested in taking a look at that.
It sounds like for college fans, at least, this is going to be huge because ESPN, ESPN2, ESPNU, SEC Network, ACC Network, ABC, Fox, so Big Ten Network, FS1 and FS2. So if you're a college fan, it's going to have all the big games for you.
Except that I wonder, surely they have, I mean, I hope that they are. They know that they're not stupid people. They know how to do this. But you've got to then go ahead and get clearances from all of these things to say, we're not only going to broadcast you, but we're going to stream you. Does that require new agreements? Does that require addendums to their existing agreements? I mean, and how much is that going to cost them? Because they're not going to allow it if they feel like there's money to be made and they're not making any money on it.
Oh, I think that's going to be a huge part of this. Yeah, absolutely. And it says here, the announcement of this bundle also comes as ESPN, Warner Brothers, Discovery are preparing to enter negotiations to renew their NBA rights. So I imagine there's a couple of renewals happening to say, okay, well, this could be the time where we kind of make a move here and transfer over as we're renewing some rights, as we're redoing some paperwork, talking about different numbers. But yeah, I think this could be huge for sports fans. I know me as an NFL guy, I still think that's going to be difficult. The NFL is going to make that very, very hard just as far as red zone's concerned,
right.
Sunday ticket. They're not probably going to get the rights to that. But any big college game, any big NBA game or basketball game, MLB, I mean, to have just that streaming service, and obviously I'm sure they're going to skyrocket the prices, but this is the beginning of something huge as far as this new TV streaming cableless world we live in.
Well, and at least what I know about the way Fox always, looks at things, they're willing to stick it out there, start small and build. I mean, that's how they built the entire Fox television network. One night at a time. They started out and they just turned it into something that was, soon to be one of the, the most powerful entertainment platforms, out there. You know, at the time they thought, well, you'll never be able to compete against the big three, but they did. And they started small and were willing to give it time and build. So maybe you start with the NBA, then you add other stuff as you go along, and sooner or later, it's that must-have thing you must have on your phone.
Yeah, it's just one more subscription that you'll be paying for.
Yeah,
might as well go back to cable.
I know.
That's right. All right. Well, with that note, it's time to move on and take off our sports hat, put on our news hat, because it's news time at Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.531, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. 55 degrees on Music Row. Traffic report, weather forecast in 5 minutes. The House expected to vote on impeachment articles against Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas today. It comes as lawmakers also consider a bipartisan package that addresses border policy. The House earlier today engaging in a period of debate on the Mayorkas impeachment articles. Jay O'Brien on the upcoming vote.
I spoke with Speaker Johnson earlier today. He said the vote will happen tonight. I asked him if he has the votes to impeach Mayorkas. He said, I think we will. That's because there are some moderate Republicans. Ken Buck is one, Tom McClintock another, who have said that they are going to vote no on this package. They believe that it's either A, unconstitutional, or that there's no evidence of high crimes and misdemeanors, and that these are instead policy disagreements.
And Republican House of Homeland Security Chairman and Tennessee Representative Mark Green said during his remarks on the floor that, quote, this is not about policy differences. We certainly object to Secretary Mayorkas' policies, but this goes far deeper. Meta announced new measures this morning to alert users to pictures generated by artificial intelligence. It comes amid growing concerns about disinformation in this election year. The tech giant says the new feature will add a digital watermark to AI-generated pictures, though the new technology does not extend to deepfake audio or video posts. The announcement also follows Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg's apology to parents who blame social media for their children's deaths. That apology came during a tense Senate hearing with other social media executives. And a verdict in the Michigan trial of Jennifer Crumbley, charged in connection to her son's deadly school shooting. Derek Dennis.
Jennifer Crumbley sat emotionless as the guilty verdict against her was read.
We find the defendant guilty of involuntary manslaughter.
She's the mother of 17-year-old Ethan Crumbley, who opened fire inside Oxford High School in suburban Detroit in 2021, killing 4 students. Crumbley's case is the first time a parent has been charged and now convicted related to their child carrying out a mass shooting. The jury finding Jennifer Crumbley was grossly negligent in caring for her son and failed in her duty as a parent. She faces up to 15 years in prison when she's sentenced in April.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Well, as you know, I'm in the middle of my journey to lose weight with the help from the folks at Restoration Wellness Med Spa in Lebanon. You know, it is true. You maybe have heard me talk about how I lost weight last year when I was going through some medical problems. But guess what? When I got to feeling better, the appetite returned and, well, the weight started to come back. I want to get this under control. Now, the truth is, I've never taken on a weight loss client before. But I really like the way that Carly and Jamie and the folks at Restoration Wellness Med Spa approach this. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. They took the time to really look at my history, to talk to me about my lifestyle, and then customize a plan that best fits my need. It's a customized treatment plan. And I'll be sharing how it's going in the days ahead. Well, why don't you do what I did, set up appointments to develop your customized treatment plan at Restoration Wellness Med Spa, be a part of more than 1,000 patients who have already seen life-changing results. Whether your goal is to lose stubborn body fat or improve your overall health, Restoration Wellness Med Spa has a solution for you. And take advantage of the newest ideas in weight loss management. That's 615-470-8124. 615-470-8124. Learn more by going to their website. See all the things they can do for you at restorationwellnessmedspa.com. Well, we are watching right now the floor of the House of Representatives. They're taking a vote on the impeachment articles against Alejandro Mayorkas. Right now, it is a tied vote, 215 to 215, and there is one outstanding vote out there, and it is a Republican vote. If that Republican votes yay, then Alejandro Mayorkas will be impeached. If that Republican votes nay, he will not be impeached. That's how close it is. Now, generally, you don't go to the floor of the House without knowing what the outcome is going to be. So we assume that this is going to be resolved. But there is, again, one Republican out there who has not yet voted. And right now, the articles of impeachment are a dead tie. Time has elapsed, but that doesn't mean anything in the House of Representatives. They'll leave the vote open. And it sounds like, maybe there's somebody in a corner having their arm twisted right now to try to go forward with this. Mark Green was the person who brought the articles of impeachment to the floor, in that he is, and so you hear now the Democrats are calling for them to call the vote. Again, 215 to 215. One outstanding vote, and it is a Republican vote. Democrats are hollering. Of course, they do this, but it doesn't mean anything. To read the vote, to call the vote. Without that one vote, Alejandro Mayorkas will not be impeached. And so the question is, who is that one person? And will they make the move? Alejandro Mayorkas, the Secretary of Homeland Security, responsible for managing border policy, and the articles of impeachment were brought to the floor earlier today by Mark Green, our own Mark Green, from the 7th Congressional District, who also serves as the chairman of the Homeland Security Committee.
We're here because our oath and our duty compel us to be here. The actions and decisions of Secretary Mayorkas have left us with no other option than to proceed with articles of impeachment.
Well, there you go. And at the White House, they are calling what is happening shameful.
They're doing to Secretary Mayorkas is baseless, is shameful. That's not what the Americans want to see. Americans want to see Congress coming together in a bipartisan way, just like the Senate was able to do in coming forward with a bipartisan bill to deal with the border, to deal with an immigration issue that the president believes is so important.
Well, that we're waiting, again, to set the scene. The floor of the House right now, trying to decide on the articles of impeachment. If they get one more vote, Alejandro Mayorkas will be impeached. If they do not get that vote, or that person votes nay, then he will not be impeached in the House of Representatives. It's really down to that. The time has elapsed, but that doesn't mean anything in the House of Representatives. It's very common for them to leave votes open while they're waiting for some member to make their way to the House, or are they going around twist a few elbows. Nancy Pelosi has certainly done that on many occasions, but we're waiting. Will it happen? Will it not happen? Against this backdrop, we have a lot going on with regard to the border situation. Right now, the arguments that were being made to pass a border bill that would allow funding to go to Ukraine and Israel does not look like it's going to pass in the House. And it's extremely likely that it will not get out of the Senate as well. Now, on this matter, the Speaker of the House has said that the measure, which is sort of a compromise measure designed to allow the border to become more secure, ostensibly, and at the same time provide funding for Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan, it needs 60 votes to get out of the Senate. And the word is they may not get 60 votes. Over at the House, the Speaker of the House has said that matter is dead on arrival, completely dead on arrival, and said when they got a look at it, they found out that it was much worse than they actually thought it was.
We don't want to codify Biden's open door policy. We don't want to hurt the next Republican administration from their ability to secure the border, which is what Americans want. And we ought to try to figure out how to do something the House will actually pass.
That's right. There you go. That's actually Senator Johnson talking about the situation. But nonetheless, now, again, you hear the Democrats on the floor raising Cain, trying to force the person in the well to bring the vote to a close, to gavel it down. Regular order, call the vote. Who is that outstanding person? Who is that person who has not yet voted? What is happening? Behind the scenes, one can only imagine. I hate to walk away from this because I'm telling you, it could be it could be bad. Again, here's the Speaker talking about making things worse with the bill that's now being thrown around the hill, not seeming to go anywhere.
We got a supplemental funding proposal with immigration provisions. It's not a border security bill. It doesn't do anything of the sort. In fact, in our view, after a careful, thoughtful review of this, we believe that if those provisions were to make law, it might actually make the situation worse.
All right. Again, there's a lot of activity. The scene on the floor, you don't get to see everything that's going on in the background. Hold on. Uh-oh. Wow, the vote has changed somehow. It's now 214 yay, 216 nay.
On this vote, the yeas are 214 and the nays are 216. The resolution is not adopted. For what purpose does the gentleman from Utah seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I have a motion at the desk.
The clerk will report the motion.
Mr. Moore of Utah moves to reconsider the vote on adoption of House Resolution 863.
The question is on the motion to reconsider. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman from Utah.
They got it. Mr. Speaker, I request the yeas and nays.
The yeas and nays are requested. Those favoring a vote by the yeas and the nays will rise. A sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, further proceedings on this question are postponed. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, the unfinished business is the vote on the motion to suspend the rules and pass H.R. 7217, on which the yeas and nays are ordered. The clerk will report the title.
H.R. 7217, a bill making emergency supplemental appropriations to respond to the attacks in Israel for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2024, and for other purposes.
This is great stuff, because what they're doing now is apparently what happened is the measure that would have impeached Alejandro Mayorkas did not get the vote, so they reconsider it and laid it on the table, which means that they can bring it back up and try again. In the meantime, they're moving on with a measure that would provide some $17 billion in support for Israel. Now, why are they doing that? Well, they're doing that because the Biden administration is saying that, if you don't give us money for Israel, it's bad. And by the Republicans putting this measure forward, to support Israel and provide some $17 billion. It negates any argument that the Democrats might make that Republicans are making the situation in Israel less safe, that we're not supporting an ally. I don't know what's going to happen about Ukraine money. I don't know what's going to happen with Taiwan money. But the Republicans in the House are putting up this bill that would actually give the Biden administration more money for Israel than they had asked for. Remember, the deal was you fix the border and we'll give you money for Israel, Ukraine, and Taiwan. The deal is dead, but the Republicans want to show their support for Israel by putting up this bill, which they will send over to the Senate. And if it gets passed and gets sent to the president, the question is, well, exactly what will he do? Will he have a fit of pique, not accept the money for Israel because the border deal went south? I don't know. And in the meantime, we're still trying to figure out exactly what they're going to do with regard to Alejandro Mayorkas, the Secretary of Homeland Security. Right now, he was 2 votes short. Somebody changed their vote, and so it was 214, 216. He was not impeached. The matter could be brought back up, but right now it has not been broken up, and as it stands, there will be no impeachment of Alejandro Mayorkas in the House. A big blow to those who are trying to push this, notably Mark Green, who's the chairman of the Homeland Security Committee, who brought the articles of impeachment forward. Will it be resuscitated? Will it be revised? Hard to know. But in the meantime, they're going forward with a vote to support Israel, and it looks like, at least in the early going, it sort of looks like this is going to probably pass, although the numbers aren't, you can't tell by the numbers just yet whether it will, but many people want to support Israel, and the issue about Ukraine is a bit more complex. So are you following me on this? I'm going to just make sure I understand one more time what's going on there. Alejandro Mayorkas, the impeachment vote did not pass, so they will not impeach him. It could be brought up at a later time. And then with regard to what's going on with Israel, the Republicans in the House are putting forward a measure for $17 billion, $3 billion more than the administration wanted in the deal that has gone south. There will be no border deal. It's dead in the Senate. It's dead in the House. But the House wanting to at least let the world know that we're willing to pony up $17 billion for Israel even if we can't go with you on the other stuff. And by the way, Mr. President, would you please fix the border? That's sort of what's going on. A standoff continues, but they're trying to take Israel out of the equation. And I can't imagine that the White House would not accept the money for Israel, but they might. In a fit of pique, calling it a political stunt. I mean, why would you throw the baby out with the bathwater? Why not take what you can get and move forward? But who knows how it's going to be interpreted. Fascinating times in the swamp right now, but the headline of this moment is Alejandro Mayorkas was not impeached today by the House of Representatives, at least not for now. It is 51 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. How are you faring in this rough and tumble market? The experts at Beacon Capital Management say it can be a little scary, but here's the thing. Beacon Capital Management has a plan to assess where you are and help you make any mid-course corrections that might be needed. Wouldn't it be great to have peace of mind that you're on the right path? Beacon can provide that reassurance. It starts with a simple phone call. The experts at Beacon will take it from there. I mean, you have nothing to lose except for the worry. Get started today by calling 615-488-9303. At the end of the process, you'll be able to rest easy knowing you have a plan that meets all your retirement goals. You can replace the worry with confidence that you're on the right path. Again, the number 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon stand ready to take your stress away. Learn more at askbeaconnow.com.
6 o'clock, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. 52 degrees in Nashville. Traffic complete weather forecast coming up in 5 minutes. Some breaking news. The U.S. House has failed to impeach Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas on 2 counts with a vote of 214 to 216. It was a deadlock at 215. Steve Scalise being the one representative who had not voted. When a vote switched, sealing that vote to a firm no, the matter may be brought back up, but as it stands, there will be no impeachment of Mayorkas in the House. They then voted to pass $17.6 billion of emergency aid to Israel. That's $3 billion more than what was put in the original immigration deal. Right now in Tennessee, a truck carrying radioactive material caught fire yesterday just before rush hour on I-40. It caused a huge backup. I'm sure lots of you remember. There are strict federal and state guidelines around transportation of hazardous materials, but there are no limits on where you can take them here in the mid-state. Around 75% of the nation's radioactive waste travels on either roads or trains in Tennessee. Channel 4 spoke to University of Tennessee nuclear engineer Nicholas Brown, who said the containers carrying the materials are designed to withstand incidents such as this.
I don't think that this is very dangerous at all. And in fact, the fact that they were able to mitigate the event, they shut down the interstate, those are all part of the response plan to an event like this. And so, it's really a great success story, both of the transportation process, but also of the response.
And people who live near the highway are concerned that these materials pass their homes every day. And news of the passing of Toby Keith prompting tributes from across the music industry.
I should have been a cowboy.
Jason Aldean posted photos of their time on stage together and wrote, "You and your music will be forever remembered, big man." Keith died yesterday at the age of 62 and after a 2-year battle with stomach cancer. Here's Brian Clark with more.
The American Cancer Society says there'll be almost 27,000 new stomach cancer diagnoses this year and nearly 10,000 deaths. Overall, the number of new cases in the U.S. has dropped by about 1.5% each year for the last decade. Stomach cancer is difficult to detect early. Doctors still don't have a comprehensive screening test. Another problem, symptoms often don't appear until after the cancer has spread. Men are more likely to be affected by stomach cancer than women.
And Nashville rapper and country music singer Jelly Roll posted on Instagram that he covered "Should Have Been a Cowboy" by Toby Keith at every show last year. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather up next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Wow. Watching what happened on the floor of the House, a big surprise. Alejandro Mayorkas was not impeached by the Republican House. It missed it by that much. But now I have some clarity and a greater understanding of what happened and why it didn't go forward. Let me see if I can back up a little bit and tell you what we have learned in the intervening minutes since that vote failed in the House of Representatives. From thehill.com, the House GOP effort to impeach Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas failed in an embarrassing fashion Tuesday as 3 Republicans joined Democrats in voting against what would have been the second ever impeachment of a cabinet official. The 214 to 216 vote is a stunning loss for a GOP that has faced continual pressure from its right flank to impeach a Biden official, even as the party has waffled over which one to focus on. Here's what happened. The failure, they misjudged what the vote was going to be because of the surprise appearance in the chamber of Al Green, a Democrat from Texas, who's been out. And I think, if memory serves me correct, may have been facing some health issues and has been out. But he showed up unexpectedly to vote today against the bill. Republicans entered the vote with 2 expected no votes, and then a third one. House GOP lawmaker Representative Mike Gallagher of Wisconsin also voted against the impeachment. So they had 3 no votes and 1 vote that was outstanding. That may be Steve Scalise, who is getting treatment for cancer and who could come back at some point and perhaps change this outcome. But right now, they did not. By the way, a 4th person then at the last second, you may have heard me mention, somebody switched their votes. That's not a surprise, and really no umbrage should be taken against Representative Blankmore of Utah. He's the vice chair of the GOP conference. He flipped his vote to no seconds before they closed out the vote and announced the tally. This is a procedural move that allows the conference to bring the legislation back up to the floor at a later date. So it's not dead, but it's on life support. Not looking real good. Republicans, of course, had accused Mayorkas of willful and systemic refusal to comply with the law with regard to the border, claiming that he violated immigration laws by failing to detain a sufficient number of migrants. So there we have that. So to recap, they got to 215 to 215, and it would have been 215 to 214 had Al Green, a Democrat who was not expected to be in the chamber or vote today, if he had not shown up, they would have won. But a little surprise there by Al Green of Texas, a Democrat, showing up unexpectedly, casting a ballot, brought it to a tie. And then they didn't have another vote right now to carry the thing forward. And so they just went ahead and one person switched their vote in order to preserve the option of bringing it up at a later time. That's sort of a parliamentary maneuver, a procedural maneuver done all the time. Again, so the people who voted against it were Ken Buck, Mike Gallagher. I don't have the third vote. Tom McClintock. There we go. So so is it dead? No. Is it an embarrassing defeat for Republicans? Yeah, really. But how could you have possibly known Al Green was going to show up and do it because he hadn't been there for a while? Big surprise that he showed up and cast his ballot. Now, Scalise is out, and it appears to me he did not vote today. And so you have a situation where when he gets back, maybe they could bring it back up and prevail. There's a couple of vacancies that are now being filled. And if those work out well for Republicans, that would give them a little margin. So I don't think it's over. I think it's a surprise. I think it's a shock. I think it's a disappointment. But I don't think that it's completely over as yet. They may yet revive the articles of impeachment. Now, that being said, this was probably not going to go anywhere in the Senate. You see, the House impeaches, but the Senate then conducts the trial and either convicts or acquits. And there was large expectation that in the Senate, which is controlled by Democrats, they would acquit Alejandro Mayorkas, and he would not have been removed from office. However, the message they wanted to send was, we don't think that the border is being managed correctly. We think you're the reason why, and whether or not that is true, I think it is true, but it would not prevail. That vote would probably not have been confirmed in the Senate. So there we go. Will they bring it back up? Yes. Now then, there was a measure that was considered right after that, and the idea was they considered whether or not they were going to provide more funding, 17.6 billion for Israel. That did not get off the ground either. They did not pass the rule. They did not move it off the table, and that measure is dead for now as well. That was a move by Republicans to try to make the gesture that we may be against the border, but we're not against Israel. And so here we're passing money. You want to take it up in the Senate, and the president said he would veto it, but I can't imagine that he really would if there was money laying on the table for an ally like Israel, and that was the only way they were going to get money. Would he really veto it? He said he would, but I'm not sure that he would. One way or the other, the measure did not go forward out of the House. So really interesting developments here today. Now, the border deal is dead. That's the thing you need to understand. Completely dead now. Not only was it dead on arrival in the House of Representatives, where the Speaker said it would make things worse.
Funding proposal with immigration provisions. It's not a border security bill. It doesn't do anything of the sort. In fact, in our view, after a careful, thoughtful review of this, we believe that if those provisions were to make law, it might actually make the situation worse.
And Senator Ron Johnson over in the Senate was one who said, listen, why are we bothering with this? Why don't we give them something that can actually pass the House?
We don't want to codify Biden's open door policy. We don't want to hurt the next Republican administration from their ability to secure the border, which is what Americans want. And we ought to try to figure out how to do something the House will actually pass.
Well, yeah. And then Ted Cruz says, look, there's no doubt who is responsible for this. It is the President of the United States.
He halted construction on the border wall. He reinstated the disastrous policy of catch and release, and he pulled out of the unbelievably successful Remain in Mexico agreement.
Now,
that caused this explosion.
There you go. It's unbelievable that the President of the United States is trying to make the case that this is somehow what's happening on the border. It's just unbelievable that he would even try to say this, that what's going on the border is the fault of Donald Trump and you and me.
Every day between now and November, the American people are going to know that the only reason the border is not secure is Donald Trump and his MAGA Republican friends.
Well, let's take an independent person out there, somebody who's got a good way of cutting through the crap, just getting down to brass tacks. A man who has a reputation of being able to come in and give you a clear-eyed view and straight from the shoulder advice. Who better to turn to than Dr. Phil? Dr. Phil went down to the border to talk about, because he wanted to see what was going on down there with his own eyes. And he talked to the people. He walked the walk, talked the talk, and came away with the opinion that this is absolutely fixable if only the president really wanted to fix it.
One of the most fundamental psychological principles is you don't reward bad behavior. And I wanted to go talk to the guys that are heading this up. And I have to tell you, you talk about some impressive troops down there. These guys are fighting a morale battle because they can't get what they need. And I wanted to know what's happening down here. What's really going on? We hear this number, 6 million people have come across under the current administration. I talked to experts down there that say that number is a myth, that it's closer to 13 to 14 million.
Wow.
That have come across. And I asked them straight up, what is it you need here? And I was shocked to hear them say, We don't need more money. We don't need more resources. We don't need more officers. We don't need more legislation. We just need the laws that are on the books to be followed. We need to be allowed to do our job, and we can get this under control right now. We don't need a bunch more money, officers, and legislation. Just let us do our job. That's all we need. And if you'll do that, we can get this under control overnight.
Yep. Dr. Phil doing the snap thing, just like that. That's all it takes. I mean, the president caused this problem, as Ted Cruz has said. He absolutely caused this problem. But why don't we try to fix it? He can snap his fingers and make it happen.
He halted construction on the border wall. He reinstated the disastrous policy of catch and release, and he pulled out of the unbelievably successful Remain in Mexico agreement. That caused this explosion.
It did. And if Dr. Phil is right from what he's hearing down there are somewhere or 13 or 14 million people who are in this country illegally. Oh, my Lord. It is a crisis of monumental proportions, brought about by the president willfully, knowledgeably knowing that this is exactly what he was doing. He knew full well what he was doing when he did it. Alejandro Mayorkas knew full well that he was not enforcing the laws when he did it. They don't care. They don't care about the rule of law. They don't care about legislative intent. They don't care about the Constitution. They just care about bringing people across the border for crass political purposes, so that they can change fundamentally the voting habits of Americans going forward, to change the voting dynamics of this country, so that Republicans never win another election. That's all they care about. Yeah, people are dying, sure. Right. People are dying as they come. People are being human trafficked. You're empowering the cartels by giving them money every time somebody comes across the border. And let's talk about fentanyl. That's killing people at the rate of 100 a day in America, and causing untold misery in families all over this country. Yeah, we don't care about that. We just care about the politics of the matter long term, and so that's what's going on. That's what's happening. So to recap very quickly, Mayorkas at the moment is not going to be impeached. The vote could be brought up for another vote down the line, when the numbers are more favorable. So that may well happen. We'll see what that happens on that day. The Democrats certainly threw the Republicans a curve by slipping somebody in the back door who wasn't expected to be there, and keep catching them by surprise. They probably would have not taken the vote had they known that was going to be the case. So it was a shock and surprise to them. And so it could come back up when the numbers become favorable. But for now, Alejandro Mayorkas escapes the impeachment vote by a vote of 216 against, 214 for. 20 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. All right, let's talk about that cold weather snap we had. Who knows? We might have another cold weather snap before it's all over with, one way or the other. If your heater's not working, why don't you call the number I would call? 615-775-7833. That's the number to Busy Bee HVAC and Plumbing. You got a plumbing issue, you got an HVAC issue, they'll come right over and fix it for you, man. I'm telling you, they can get this stuff going. They've been helpful to me. I was just thinking today about all the things they've done for me, where I just call up, and sometimes it's been in an emergency, but they just buzz right over and fix it. The way you resolve this matter and to make sure that you don't have problems is to do preventative maintenance, and that's what being a member of the Beehive Club is all about. Starts for as little as $99. You get 3 thorough maintenance services on your systems, one aimed at heating, one aimed at cooling, one aimed at plumbing. In addition, no overtime charges 24/7 and 10% off all repairs if you need them. They'll be right there. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, your official Rude Pro partner. For satisfaction guaranteed, call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, 615-775-7833, online at busybeehvac.com. It is 25 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy. You know, we've gotten used to this. It's almost like we don't even hear it anymore.
Think about it. Look, here's the lives. When you think about it. I propose, and I'm going to digress slightly. We're in a situation. With the whole, excuse me. All men and women created by go. You know the thing.
Oh, you know the thing. I'm the one that cracks me.
It ain't got no gas in it.
It sounds like Papa. Young people, Popeye was a cartoon way back in the day. Well, there's more. I mean, you know, the other day we had this one. I got to add this to my whole list of things. You know, who knows what he's talking about here?
The beer brewed here, it is used to make the brew beer in this refinery. Oh, Earth Rider, thanks for the Great Lakes. I wonder why it's called.
I mean, doesn't that sound like, you know, your 100-year-old grandpa, you know, not able to form the sentences or talk, you know, with any crispness at all? My goodness. And now, how about this one? The President of the United States telling a story, and he doesn't tell it well, but he certainly gets things screwed up because he seems to be referring to the French president, who he calls Mitterrand. Look up for me, Chris, what year Mitterrand died. Francois Mitterrand. I want to say it was 96. It's been a while since Mitterrand was around. Instead of Macron, who is the current French president.
I was in the south of England, and I sat down and I said, America's back. And Mitterrand from France looked at me and said, you know, why, how long are you back for?
Wow. First of all, he said he was from Germany, then he corrected himself. And Mitterrand died when?
1996.
Yep, 96 was my memory on that. Thank you. I see. Wilson gets one. So that's right. I mean, the man hasn't been around since 1996. He just went to a bunch of meetings with these guys at the G7, where he talks to the presidents of other country, and he doesn't know who the president of France is. Macron. And by the way, in Germany, it's Angela Merkel. Angela, actually, is the way you say it, I think. He doesn't know whether, Mitterrand is in Germany or France, I think, but one way or the other, it doesn't matter, because he's dead. I don't know where he's buried, but he's dead. And then you have this one. Nobody knows what he's talking about here. He's talking about Roe v. Wade, and I'll just play it out.
By the way, I love how Trump is now saying Biden's for abortion on demand. Not true. That's not what Roe v. Wade said. They said there are 3 trimesters and how it worked.
I have no idea what he's trying to say there. And then this one, I love this one, where he thinks that the sitting president of the United States is Donald Trump.
Did you see what he recently said about that he wants to see the economy crash this year? The sitting president.
What?
As they say in my face, bless me, Father, come on, man.
Well, first, I love this. But the second part of it is, he's the sitting president, not Donald Trump. He doesn't seem to know that Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. is the sitting president of the United States. This is tragic. Do you feel safe at night knowing that this guy's in charge of the nuclear football? Do you feel safe at night knowing that this man is looking out for our safety? Completely lost his mind. And he goes and he does a little events and he reads off the teleprompter, universally makes a mistake, universally gets something wrong, universally there's cleanup on aisle Biden all the time. And it's like, and then he goes and gets an ice cream. It's like, Mr. President, we got a little trip to take now. If you're a good boy, If you do everything we ask of you, at the end of it, we'll let you get some chocolate ice cream. Or maybe we'll get you a nice smoothie. Would you like a nice smoothie, Mr. President? And he goes, well, that's, yeah, I'll gut it down. Ridiculous. Be afraid, America. Be very, very afraid. 6:30 now on Super Talk 99.7. It's 37 minutes now past the hour. What an eventful day it has been. Not all of it good, quite frankly, but nonetheless, things are happening. The Speaker of the House had to call the vote on the impeachment effort against Alejandro Mayorkas, and they came up a vote short, and they pulled some procedural parliamentary maneuver, which allows them to bring it back at a later time. So it's not dead, but for the moment, the attempt to impeach the Secretary of Homeland Security has failed. So there's that going on today. I don't think it's dead, but I think it is definitely something that will take a while to sort itself out at this point. And then they were unable to move forward on funding for Israel. So there's that. Other stuff that's going on. I mean, I got a whole amalgam of stuff that I want to try to get into to the show as we spend the last 22 minutes together. This is a story that I need more information about. This comes from Channel 4. A legislative staffer has been suspended after an inappropriate confrontation with a Tennessee House of Representative member. You ready? According to a letter to the staffer, the incident with Representative Justin Jones, Democrat of Nashville, occurred in the hallway next to his office on the evening of January 9th, 2024. The staffer worked for another Democrat, Representative Tori Harris, Democrat of Memphis. The letter that she received said this: "Your conduct failed to maintain a satisfactory and harmonious working relationship with the member and has caused disruption in daily operations for the member and other individuals who were impacted by your actions. The staffer has been placed on disciplinary suspension beginning January 30th through May 3rd. Wow. The suspension will be without pay from February 1st through February 16th. The remainder of the disciplinary action will be with pay." The letter says the staffer is required to participate in counseling with the Emotional Wellbeing Solutions Program regarding emotional and behavioral health. You must provide documentation that you've attended counseling during your absence regarding your behavior in our workplace. Participation in counseling is a condition of your continued employment with the state legislature. During this disciplinary suspension, you may not contact the member with whom this confrontation occurred, nor with any other legislative staff or member who may have been present during the incident to discuss the matter. If the staffer completes the required counseling, she will be able to return to regular duties on Monday, May 6th. Okay. Female staffer who works for one Democrat gets into it in some way with Justin Jones in a hallway in the state capitol. I need more information.
I saw a headline earlier this evening on the local news that said something to the effect of it had to do with I guess she alleged that Justin Jones was charging people to take photos with him, and something that he then denied. So I don't know if that was the entire rift, but that was one of the points that was brought up. It had something to do with paying for photographs. I don't know.
Interesting. All right. Well, we'll have the speaker on tomorrow, 4:05. Maybe he'll be able to enlighten us. He'll say, I know what he'll say, what they have to say. It's a disciplinary employee action. We really can't comment on it any further. Well, we'll see if we can find out some more information. There you go. Okay. Other news. Chris Christie has not ruled out running for the presidency as an independent, saying Tuesday in an interview on ABC's Good Morning America that he would need to see a path to 270 electoral votes if he decided to jump back in. The former New Jersey governor, who dropped out of the Republican presidential race just 2 days before the Iowa caucuses in January, has not closed the door on a third-party presidential run, to which I say, well, I have just 2 words to say about Chris Christie running as an independent and having any success. Fat chance.
Hey, hey, hey!
I've been sitting on that all day. And he says, I got to see a pathway And that would be for not only for me, but anybody else who might want to run as an independent. Got to find a pathway. Chris Christie, there is no pathway for Chris Christie. The drone that killed U.S. troops in Jordan likely went undetected. This is very concerning because the initial thing we were told when we said, well, how did this happen? How did the drone, get close to Tower 22 to kill those 3 American service members? The initial thought was, and the explanation they gave is that it followed a U.S. drone and slipped in behind it and was not picked up on radar. Now that seems to be not true at all. From the Washington Post, U.S. forces probably did not detect the approach of the Iranian-made drone that killed 3 American soldiers last week at a remote base in Jordan, and there was no air defense system on site capable of shooting it down, the military's initial assessment of the attack has found. The early findings, which have not been reported until now, indicate that the drone may have been missed due to its low flight path. If you hug the ground, radar can't see you beyond a certain point, and by the time it sees you, guess what? It's too late. I mean, everybody knows that. If you're going to attack somebody, that's why we have these planes that are equipped with ground-following radar, so they can hug right across the ground and not be picked up on radar sometimes. You can go very, very high, and you can use stealth technology, or you can fly right at ground level. Now, you might be seen, but they won't pick you up on radar. Seen with the eye. Additionally, the person said the base known as Tower 22 was now outfitted with weapons that can kill aerial threats like drones. They rely on something known as electronic warfare systems designed to disable them or disrupt their path to the target. GPS jammers is what they're talking about. You jam a drone's GPS capability, and it loses its mind, doesn't know where it's going. But apparently, they didn't have any time to react. Tucker Carlson said Tuesday he had secured an interview with Russian President Vladimir Putin, and he plans to broadcast it or stream it in the near future. The sit-down will mark the first time a member of the Western media has interviewed Putin since Russia's 2022 invasion of Ukraine that sparked the ongoing war between the two countries. We are not encouraging you to agree with what Putin may say in this interview, Carlson said, but we are urging you to watch it. You should know as much as you can, and then, like a free citizen and not a slave, you can decide for yourself. Carlson did not specify when his interview with Putin would be broadcast, but during his 4-minute announcement, he blasted the American media and U.S. government for what he described as blind support for Ukraine in the war effort. This has been long one of Tucker's big talking points. Carlson has for 4 years been critical of U.S. involvement in the conflict with the Ukrainian government and the President Volodymyr Zelensky, with whom he said he has also requested an interview. Speaking from what appeared to be an elevated balcony in Moscow, probably his hotel room, Carlson acknowledged what he called risks to conducting an interview like this, and noted that he and his crew paid for the trip to Moscow themselves and did not take any financial assistance from government groups to travel. So there you go. Wait to see what Tucker has up his sleeve there and what Putin has to say. Crime in Nashville. Homicide is down 70%. Theft is up. Are you ready for this? 123%. Listen, murder statistics go up and down, and you look at them over the course of not just 1 month, but over several months to see whether or not they have gone up or gone down. But right now they say only 5 homicides have been reported in the area, compared to 17 during the same period in 2023. Wow. Overall, violent offenses are down about 12.8%. Property crime continues to be an issue, and one particular offense increasing at a substantial rate. You ready for this, Chris? Auto theft is up 123.5% compared to this time last year. This data derived from unofficial reports in the Metro Nashville Police Department Weekly Crime Initiative book. The weekly report prepared by Metro Nashville PD Crime Analysis Section provides data on all Part 1 offenses. These offenses include homicide, rape, robbery, aggravated assault, burglary, larceny, motor vehicle theft, and arson. Arson offenses are not included in the public reporting because they're investigated by the fire department. Violent crime composed of 4 offenses: homicide, rape, aggravated assault, and robbery. According to unofficial reports, the rate of violent crime in Nashville is lower than it was this time last year. I'll tell you why that probably, honestly, I hate to say this, but it has to do a lot of times with the weather. When it's cold, people are not out, and they stay closer to home. That's one of the things you always found out. Unofficial data shows the number of rapes reported in Nashville has increased, with 43 reports made by February 3rd and 54 reports made by February 3rd. That's of sexual assault. Okay. But it's this automobile thing that it's just through the roof. Auto theft has continued to be one of the fastest rising crimes in Nashville and Davidson County. According to unofficial reports, in total, 655 auto thefts reported so far this year, compared to the 293 thefts that were reported by February 3rd of 2023. King Charles, as you know, we told you yesterday, is being treated for cancer. And, of course, then it raised question in many people's mind, well, what is the order of succession to the British throne? I had it wrong. I just don't know anything about the royal family and how it's all set up. I thought, well, if Prince William would be next in line, then I thought it might go down to Prince Harry. Turns out that's not it at all. Prince William, the eldest son of Charles, and the latest Princess Diana, is number 1. Their 3 children would follow him in the line of succession. So it's Prince William, and then the other little princes would be next in line. Well, I guess it's not one of them's a princess. Then it would be Prince George of Cambridge, Princess Charlotte of Cambridge, Prince Louis of Cambridge, and then you finally get to Prince Harry. He's number 9 on the list.
Wow.
Yeah. Then Archie Mountbatten Windsor, Lilibet Mountbatten Windsor. That's Harry's kids. And then it goes on and on and on. And this list goes down, line of succession goes a long, long way. Bottom of the list, James Viscount Severn, son of Edward, and his wife Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh.
So we're not on that list, is what you're saying.
Nobody knows. No, not at all.
That's a shame.
Yeah. It's now 50 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock. I love the good folks over at DT McCall's. You walk around my house and I can point to all kinds of stuff that I purchased there. Good quality stuff. That's what I've got. You go to my house, that couch over there. Well, that couch, I bought it at DT McCall's. That bedroom suite, I bought that at DT McCall's. And you just go around and, really, because they have great stuff. Huge selection of appliances, furniture, mowers, guns, safes, whatever you want, gun safes, whatever you want, they've got it. And if you can think of it for your house, chances are they're going to have it, and they will be honest with you. They will give you a real honest price. They won't jack it up, won't charge you extra for, the delivery, the setup, the haul away, none of that. Not the games that the big box stores play. And at DT McCall's, you get, whenever possible, they will try to sell you products that are actually made and manufactured right here in Middle Tennessee. The idea is to keep the dollars local, right? And that's a good thing. Keeps people employed. It keeps the money right here in Tennessee. They've got a mattress selection. It's actually made right here in Middle Tennessee. I have one, and I'm telling you, they're good mattresses. You will love yours. England furniture, not made in England and all, made right here in Middle Tennessee. Listen, find out about all the things they can do for your home and about the location that's nearest to you simply by going to their website and taking a look. I think you'll be impressed. You need to go by and walk around one of these places. Learn more at dtmccalls.com.